Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Simracersworld VLN 2.4 series, round 2, obviously at the one and only Nurburgring Nordschleife. My name is Daniel Handover, and joining me in the commentary box, as always, is the wonderful and fantastic Mr. Ed May. Ed, how are you doing this evening?
Afternoon. I am doing absolutely brilliant this evening. Yes, it's a great day for racing here at the Nordschleife, and well, last round was entertaining, wasn't it? And there was battling all the way through, especially in that TCR field, and I'm expecting to see very much the same thing this time around, because in qualifying, margins are very close indeed across some of the classes here.
They are indeed, yes, absolutely. We're going to have a look at qualifying now. I do apologise, everyone, for the slightly delayed start, just sorting out a couple of issues. But we obviously are here now, ready to go. So let us jump straight into what is happening for qualifying. So Martin van Loozenhoort. I mean, to be fair, we saw a dominant performance, didn't we, last time out? I think we're, with the pace that Martin has as well, I mean, he's not lost any pace, has he?
No, he certainly hasn't. You're right there. There was only really one mistake, I think, for the RHG esports driver, wasn't it? And that was basically a curse of the commentator, which was what struck him going into, well, the final sort of corner before the dot, just straight. He had a slight moment, collected it back though, and won in a very dominant fashion, it has to be said. Martin van Rowick, though, in the Simpact Noise car, he's doing a good job in second place. I'm not sure what he's doing, very slowly going into the hairpin there. I think he's just having a bit of a chill time. Maybe he's just enjoying a little Sunday drive.
He could very well be. But yeah, I mean, like I said, not too long of qualifying left. And obviously we're going to be jumping into the endurance phase. I think, to be fair, we've got a couple new drivers on the grid as well. One of them, who I know personally, Ivo, that's Ivo Laubscher. He is currently racing in the GT3 class. Also, he is in P7 at the moment. Yeah, I think, to be fair, the good thing now that everyone's got the first round under their belt, everyone's got a bit more. They've just got that. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, and I think the best way to put it is they've just got that knowledge, haven't they? Because even though Nürburgring is a track that a lot of people race around, at the same time, it doesn't matter how many laps you've done. More laps and more knowledge is absolutely key.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the first round was dusting off the cobwebs for a few of these drivers, and now that they've got that first round under their belt, we're going to see maybe a few less mistakes coming out of some of these drivers, and having some maybe surprise results from drivers that maybe didn't quite get the luck last time out, maybe didn't get the race they felt they deserved. Might see them scoring some very good points this evening. Of course, though, as you mentioned, all eyes have to go to Martin van Loozenhoort, because he put in a dominant performance to win last time out, and I'm sure everyone's going to be expecting much the same thing. But look at the TCR classes. We've got Oystein Hedford in the Luminous Racing car now going on provisional pole position.
Indeed, yes. Just looking through it, there's a few drivers still out on track. But yeah, this is, so we're going to look through the TCR field. This is Oystein Hedford. Is it Herefjord? Is it Herefjord? Is it Fjord, I believe? Herefjord, yeah. Herefjord, there we go. Brilliant. Sorry, again, I do apologise for name pronunciation. It's not my strong suit at all. We've got, GT3 Ferry Motorsport, Ferry Monster Esports car with Rob. This is Thyssen, isn't it? I believe, again, Ed?
Tyson or Tyson. Either one of those. I think it might be Tyson, yeah. He's a good job. Sebastian Herbera. He's just gone fastest in the GT4 class. And I was going to say, since Sebastian Herbera, he's not quite on position. He's down in third place, but he's certainly done a massive improvement. Up into first, and with the last minute left in qualifying, it's not like with other series where they can finish the lap they're on, because the lap is so long at the Nordschleife. They basically have to get to the line before those 40 minutes are up.
They do indeed, yes, absolutely. Like, so you've got a little bit of lever with some tracks. Obviously, with the Nordschleife, you absolutely do not have any leeway at all. Some quick housekeeping, though, before we do jump into the race. So we've got, this is TSR, and this is, it's put Ben, I'm going to say is Ben. We've got Ivo as well, so obviously Ivo is racing, so hello, and good luck to yourself, Ivo. Ellis Racing TV is saying good luck. TSR Martin saying hello. Martin was actually booting up the broadcast, so that was why Martin Reivik was pulled up on the side of the road there, Ed, because he was. This is how much he wants to watch the broadcast while he's racing. Is he actually pulled over alongside in qualifying?
Maybe it'd be a slight distraction when we're shouting about his fight he's having, going too wide, going into going up the Nordschleife. Maybe that might be a little bit of a distraction for him. We're going to see if he is smart enough to maybe turn it off and then tune in after everything's done. But look at that, we're moving now into the I think it's just a little bit of a practice session for some of the drivers to get acclimatized before moving into the race, I believe. And it's very dark, isn't it, this evening here at the Nordschleife now?
Yes, it is. Actually, this is going to be an interesting one to commentate on, because obviously last time out was the first time of me commentating on the Nurburgring, any Nurburgring event, and now we're going to be doing it at night. So
I think it's going to become into the daytime. Look, you
I
can just see
see.
the slightest crack of dawn breaking through, so we're going to have a lovely bit of iRacing sort of day-night transition.
Absolutely, we will be indeed. But I'll tell you what, let us bring out the qualifying results here for you now. They're just going to come up on your screen. And there we go. So we do have Martin Lusendord in P1 with RHG Esports, Martin Reivik in P2, Pascal Tigala in P3, Angelo Luvas in P4, Rob Thiessen in P5, Ross Yost in P6, Ivo Labshire, respectable P7 straight out of the bat, Curtis Newkirk in P8. That is all of your grid for the GT3 cars. Meanwhile, we have GT4s. We've got Sebastian Herberer, Isaac Barkley, P2, Matteo Sufi in P11, and then Andy Jones in P4 in class and P12 overall. And then, Ed, I will let you, if you want to run through the TCR grid, we'll just bring them down to you now. I'll let you run through the grid if you would like.
Absolutely, thank you very much. And it is Erstein Herfjord, whichever one of those pronunciations might have been right, in pole position for Luminous Racing, ahead of Michael Polasek in the T23 race coaching by FSR machine. Then there's the second row made up by Matthias de Hain and Preben Wahl in Luminous Racing. Miguel Freitas is in 5th place. He's going to be hoping for better fortunes, isn't he? Because he had a massive incident last time out, in contention for podium and potentially a race win, but that just unfortunately wasn't his day. Miguel Garcia there in 18th place, but that is, of course, 6th overall. David Van der Broek, Ryan Walker, John Roberts, and Anton Dupan rounding out the TCR field. And then there's a few drivers further down that are in their respective classes, GT3s. We've got Ben Hoffman, James Hall, Paul Clist down the order when able to set lap times. They're going to be allowed to be waved around, though, all of the other cars behind, so they should be able to make the start and not have a massive spread in the field. And then, of course, we've got a couple of GT4 cars as well, Bart Daleman and Paul Godden, that I believe will be waved around the TCR classes. But that is our starting order. And we're going to have a really exciting start to this race, isn't it? Nighttime, but the drivers, they're going to be having to be wide awake going into the first corner. The start procedure is, of course, basically as soon as they go past the barrier for the pit entry, they can go whenever they like up to the start-finish line.
Yes, they can indeed. Very, very true. Who is going to get the jump? What is going to happen? I mean, obviously, we saw a lot of action from the start of the last run. I'm sure this is going to be absolutely no different what is going to happen here. So, Martin Lusendord, he is going to be the person that is controlling this pace as soon as the safety car pulls into the pits, which it has done now. Martin has now got the grid. When is he going to go? But in a few minutes, we're going to find out before we get underway for the Simracersworld VLN 2.4 hour series, round 2. And we are away already with Martin Van. Look at the gap he's already got. It's opened up to about 0.3 of a second. There's going to be potentially going 3 wide into turn 1. That's not going to be safe, chap. You got 2 2.5 hours left to go. But Martin Lusso doesn't need to defend going into turns 1 and 2. What happened there? I think the gap has opened up a little bit. A couple of drivers have fallen down the order. So I'm sure we're going to see some replays going forward, which we're going to look back on in a second. Meanwhile, just going down. These are the GT4 cars. Sebastian Herber leading the GT4 class. So these will be going in a few moments' time. Ed, I will let you talk through GT4s if you like.
Yes, absolutely. Seb Herber is going to get this race underway for the GT4 field, and I think he's gone already. Seb Herber, he's judged that start very well. I know how good he is behind the wheel of a GT3 car. Me and him have raced and had a championship fight for a brief moment early on in the BMW series, but in this GT4 car, he seems to have a very good grip around the Nordschleife. Look at that, though, close behind Isaac Barkley, slotting in behind, not making any rash moves, any rash decisions at this early stage of the race. And it is Seb Herber that makes his way through turn 1 without too much fuss. Nice and clean indeed. Meanwhile, we're going to have a look here at the TCR fields, and it is, as we mentioned, Erstein Herfjord leading the field out of Michael Polasek and Matthias De Haan.
Absolutely indeed. What is Erstein going to do again? As he will have control of the pace already. The safety car is already gone at this point. The gaps are about 30 seconds between each class. So when is Erstein going to go? We saw the close racing we had last time out, and I'm sure, or I would put money on this is going to be exactly the same. When are we going to go? Who is going to make the jump? When is Erstein going to make the jump? He has gone. Yes, we are away. As we see, that was Michael Polasek going straight into the defensive line just behind. But the gap's opened up already again to about 0.3 of a second. We saw this going forward with both classes beforehand. So Polasek already having to go defensive. But that is just allowing Erstein Herford to just disappear up the road. Although I thought as much so, it's actually the gap has stayed roughly about the same. We've got a couple of replays, although we've had a couple of people off, which is not good. What's happening a bit further down the field? This could be Matthias De Haan. And who is that he's racing with? That is Preben Wall that he's racing with, side by side going down already into the early stages of this race. Haven't even got to the Nordschleife yet. I've already seen some side-by-side action, which, to be fair, Ed, I'm not complaining about, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Great side-by-side fight, though, wasn't it, between Matthias De Haan and Preben Wall in Luminous Racing. In fact, it was almost about 2 Luminous Racing cars in the fight for podium places, but just seems for the moment they're going to slot in behind. And Matthias De Haan, there's a little bit of a gap, isn't there, between P2 and P3, but we know these TCR cars, they do race very well in the slipstream. They can close right back up, and we could be seeing yet more close fighting. But look at that, Miguel Freitas, he's had enough. He's lost the rear of the car. I think he's been able to punch back onto the power and get up and moving, but that was very close indeed to, well, a big pile behind him. Miguel Freitas, I'm not sure if we can get a replay of that. I don't know if he had a tap going into the corner or if he just took a bit too much speed, lost it. Something might have happened, maybe a bump over the curb. He lost out though, didn't he? Miguel Garcia now up into 5th place.
Do you know what? I'm actually looking. He must have saved that. He must have been on the cusp of saving that, because looking through our data that we have, there was no indication with the data in the software that we have, that we are using, that there was an accident. So fair play for Miguel Freitas actually saving that car. It's obviously TCR cars, sideways, bit of sideways moment, boot full of power, normally straightens up, but you've got to make sure you don't necessarily overcompensate for that, and then too much throttle and it could all go a little bit wrong. But yes, Miguel Freitas does very well to hold that indeed. We do have one replay to show you, actually. Seems to be a relatively clean start, but yeah, Matteo Sufi in the GT4 cars that had a bit of a moment, cold tyres again. Does he get collected? Oh, it's very, very close, and he luckily misses everyone. Yes, that was a little bit close down into the bottom hairpin. Not ideal with what you want for the first corner. We actually saw this, I'm sure you remember, Ed, for the first round, Sebastian Herber on turn 1. And yet he did come through to win the race. So, I mean, to be fair, Matthew Sufi is definitely not out of this race yet.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not out of contention. He's still within the fight for potentially a podium or a race victory. It all depends, though, doesn't it, on the racing up in front. Seb Herber, as we know, last time winner in the GT4 categories. going to be, well, Bookie's favourite, I suppose, isn't he, for the race victory? And certainly so will Van Lucenord leading this race. Already got a healthy margin, 3.2 seconds as they make their way into the carousel. I believe it's a lot harder to tell where they are on track. You can use the outside little landmarks to figure out where they are in night. Those landmarks are a little bit harder to spot, but yet they go through the carousel for the first time of asking this race. Look at that. It's such a great sight to see so many GT4 cars or GT3 cars. In fact, I was going to, why do we even call it the GT3 class? It's just the BMW class, isn't it?
It did, to be fair, it is actually, yes, you are absolutely correct. It is, ironically, what we've got here, I say ironically, we've got all the GT3 cars are all BMWs. All of the GT4 cars are Porsches. And obviously, all the TCR cars are Audis. So it's 3 classes with 3. It's almost like single make classes, really. We did see one McLaren 570 make its debut outing last round, but unfortunately, since then, I'm guessing again. Obviously, the Porsche must be a favourite. It must be a favourite because obviously we're seeing this so popular, as is the BM. Interesting though. I don't know whether it's just me, but I like being different. I like having a different. Just doing something different, so I'd probably drive the McLaren, or I'd drive something silly, just put myself at even more risk, like the Lamborghini or the Audi or something in the GT3 class. But yeah, I mean, the car at the moment, that's the star of the show, is the BMW M4 GT3. Very, very close at the front though, Ed. I mean, the gap's obviously from Martin Lucenord. Martin van Lucenord has just disappeared. 4.5 seconds now is the gap up the road.
Oh,
who saved that?
Rob Tyson.
Wow.
That was Rob Tyson, nearly lose the car completely, slamming on the anchors. I think he keeps it out of the wall as well. Great car control there to save it from Rob Tyson. You see, Bart Daleman, as he had an incident up here. That was just going through the foxhole up the hill, into the wall once. Does he go into the wall again? No, he manages to keep it nice and safe. I think he's escaped that without too much damage. Actually, the right-hand side of the car does look a little bit worse for wear. Does he keep it going? I think he does. I don't see him pulling into the pits either, so I've just gotten away with that. Look at that, though. A big hit over the curbs, I think, for the number 3 car. No, he doesn't quite escape the wall. A little bit of a hit into the wall. That was very close indeed. Look at that. Yeah, it's so hard to see in the dark. The track limits where the curbs are. You only really notice them when you bump over them and spin around like that.
And there we go. Yeah, look at that. Just clips over. I mean, to be fair, reverse entry into any. Oh, that was a bit hefty hit there. Yeah, reverse entry into any corner at Nurburgring is not ideal. But to be fair, Rob Tyson, I mean, that was the best of a bad situation. I think we could probably agree both of that, Ed. Like, fair play for avoiding it as much as possible. Obviously, the damage is there, and the damage will be hurting.
It looks like there could be a little bit of minor steering damage. It's hard to see because when we go on board on the road bars, most cars would be able to see the steering wheel, but sadly iRacing doesn't let us do that with the BMW, so we don't really know if there is any extent to any damage. But Ben Hoffman, I think our first major casualty of the race, pulls into the pits. Either that, I can't see anything directly wrong with the car. He might have forgot to put the race fuel in and is actually running a quali set.
Yes, that's something that I have done once too many times. John Roberts, though, just snapping. That's going to be a big, hefty hit indeed. Definitely not what you want in a front-engined, front-wheel drive car. Steering damage, engine damage, all sorts of stuff there. So John Roberts doing very, very well up until that point. Unfortunately, has dropped down into P11, and his car will be definitely worse for wear. As John Roberts has actually gone off the track again. We've got another replay of this here. So again, this is nursing the damage that he's already got, but... Oof, yeah, does he keep it? Just manages to keep it out of the barrier, I think. But again, no, as I say that, he does just slightly tap the barrier. Ben Hoffman, off he goes then. So, yeah, not a deal for the Year 1 racing driver. But at the same time, there's a battle here going between Curtis Newkirk and this is Ivo Laubscher. As well, having a bit of a battle. Ivo flashing his lights furiously there. But that was a move. I want to see if you can get a potential... there's no replay of that, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a move in for P7. So Ivo as well, he's definitely getting stuck in for this first race. I was actually speaking to him beforehand, Ed, and he was actually talking about it. And this is more so of he wants to be able to do this. He wants to obviously get more involved with these sort of racing series, get more involved with leagues. But also as well, this is great prep actually for the Nurburgring 24 hours with the iRacing special event.
Yeah, absolutely. That's closing in fast, isn't it? Let's have a look. What day? I can't remember what day it is. I think it's
About 3 weeks from now.
maybe 3 weeks from now, and I've not done any practice
Neither.
though. To be fair, I am not the best at the Nordschleife. It's not one of my strong suits. Let's put it like that. All the times I've raced there, I've usually binned it into a wall, even in something as easy to drive as an MX-5. So maybe I might be sitting this one out and giving my teammates a bit of moral support rather than getting in the car and spinning it for everyone.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like it's something that I've not driven all that. Well, to be fair, I've driven it. I've done 3 Nurburgring 24 hours now, on varying different sims. But yeah, at the same time, you've always got to be careful. You've just got to be so careful. There is absolutely no rest for the wicked around here. Meanwhile, we've got a battle in the TCR category. We knew we were going to see this, Ed, did we not? And yet we've got what's going to be a potential 7-car or 6-car train. And this is for the lead as well. Now, we saw this going on for hours upon hours. Almost like the first hour and a half, 2 hours, until it all went a little bit wrong towards the last, like, 30 minutes of the race. But, I mean, yeah, this is going to be something we're going to watch and we're going to be seeing a lot. But Erstein Herfjord is still leading this train as well. Gap's about half a second. Something we haven't actually spoken about also, Ed. Fuel saving. Massive thing as well is fuel saving, especially when you're getting through, even in the TCRs, where a tow is worth even more because you've obviously got less power. You have to use it more to your advantage. But, I mean, yeah, fuel saving is going to be such a key factor here, as it is with most tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially though, like you mentioned, at this Nordschleife, there are plenty of flat-out sections where you'll be saving a lot of fuel in these TCR cars. 6-way fight though for the lead of the race, isn't it? And they're all basically the same distance from one another, there or thereabouts. A little bit close up in front. Matthias de Haan looking at the rear bumper of Michael Polasek. This could be a change of position. He might want to get the move done before they get onto the Nordschleife, the northern loop, because it is very difficult to pass at that area of the track. It's still doable, of course. We've seen moves like that made all evening, basically, last time we were here a couple of weeks back. However, I think they might be trying to be a little bit more cautious at this early phase of the race and trying to work together with one another. Like we mentioned, 6 cars all in contention for the race victory. You don't want to make a mistake because you'll find yourself getting shuffled all the way back through the pack. But look at this, up in front in GT4s. Change for the race lead. Sapphire Simsport, Isaac Barkley into the lead of the race for GT4s now.
Indeed, that was actually replays. This actually happened a little while ago. So yeah, Isaac Barkley, he's doing well. He's definitely putting the gap is closer though. Look at that, Erstein. The gap has decreased ever so slightly from himself and Michael Polasek. I have been on track with Michael Polasek before. He's a very quick person indeed. So we're going to watch that develop. I'm sure moving forward. But yeah, it's so Sebastian Herbert. He hasn't got it as easy this time out. Obviously, last time even with that issue. And that spin that he had at the front. I mean, he absolutely charged his way through, did he not, Ed? And, you know, like, the pace that he had and the confidence he had as well was absolutely incredible. It's being a little bit more tricky for him this time out because Isaac Barkley is really, from Sapphire Simsport, has really brought it to the table. And he's gone, nope, you're going to have to work for it this time, is Sebastian. And, I mean, the gap is increasing. It's 0.6 of a second now.
Yeah, absolutely. That Sapphire Simsport car did show some very good pace last time out. I think there was just a few little moments last time, wasn't there, for them? I think I seem to remember them having a bit of a incident. Was that going through... I can't remember where it was now, but I remember it was somewhere on the Nordschleife. It might have been going through Adenauer Forst or somewhere like that on the circuit. And after that, it was just a little bit unfortunate for the drivers, but we're going to be seeing what they can do here. If they can have a better run of things, a better run of form, maybe get those little mistakes out of the way at the first round and can have the rest of it nice and close. Speaking of close, though, look at that. Seb Weber right on the rear bumper of Isaac Barkley. And now, are we going to see the slipstream work in the Simracersworld driver's favour? Are we going to see him close in and make a position down the inside for the next corner coming up? No, I don't think so. He's going to try and slot him behind. I say that actually as they make their way up the hill going up towards Bravery Corner here. No, he's not going for the move, is he, just yet?
To be fair, I can sort of understand it. Yeah, I can sort of understand it. You know, you're 15 minutes into a 2.5-hour endurance race around Nurburgring. You've got to be very, very cautious, very, very careful. I've actually just seen as well. Look at Isaac Barkley on the back of his car. I don't know if you can quite see that. Oh, Seb Herbera. That, I mean, to be fair, I know these cars don't produce that much downforce, but still, you've got a big car in front of you that's punching hole in the air. It's great in a straight line because you pull up to the car a lot quicker because obviously you haven't got the air resistance. Actually, though, when you're that close, you've got a high-speed turn, you lose any downforce that the aero does generate. You pretty much lose because the car in front has nicked it all. So, but actually, I just saw on Isaac Berkeley's rear bumper, it just says, taunting Seb Herbera, and it says on the back of his car, do you even noughts? So that's an interesting message to have on the back of Isaac Barkley's car. As the sun is starting to rise.
I think for added psychological warfare, I think it's done in Comic Sans. With random capitalization, so that's just going to weigh heavy on the mind.
It is indeed. It absolutely is indeed. Looking at the GT field, though, look at this. Jamie Belima and this is Martin Vrejovic, who are battling as well. Meanwhile, obviously, the gap has just increased ever more. So, I tell you what, Nürburgring at dawn is just an incredible sight, isn't it? Is it not? I cannot wait. And this is one of my favourite times ever to drive in sim racing, dusk or dawn. Look at Martin van Luzendorp. 8:11.14 was his last lap, and we know that's going to get just going to get quicker with the fuel burns off, track rubbers in. That is just going to get quicker. But the battle, these guys are not holding up and not letting each other breathe at all. So Team IRNL Orange for Jamie Belima, and then we got obviously Martin Vrejovic in the Simpact, and this is, I'm guessing this is the Simpact Orange car. I believe it is. Looking at the team. So, I mean, interestingly enough, I wonder again if Jamie Belima, is he going to be trying to, if he can just stay with him, trying to again save as much fuel as he possibly can. Obviously, it's very, very difficult to save an entire lap of fuel around Nürburgring because you lose so much. It's almost impossible in a stint length such as this. But even so, any less time spent in the pits, any fuel saving that you need to do or that you can do, it equals less time in the pits. So that's going to be something that I wonder if Jamie's actually going to be trying to do. Gap has closed up again, but there's no real attacking manoeuvres here at the moment, is he? Either that or he's just sizing Martin Vrejovic up for an overtake to happen maybe later down the line, but if I were him, I'd be saving the fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. That might be the smarter thing to do. Like you mentioned, is save a bit of fuel and try and potentially even work together. You can get a little bit of a... even without sort of bumping one another, the car in front does get a little bit of an extra sort of speed boost if they're following close to one another in the slipstream. So they may be able to work together to close up and save a little bit of fuel across both cars and see what they can do later on. But the other thing to think about, Dan, is well, what is going to be happening in the pit stop phases for tires? Because we saw last time, didn't we, in the GT3 class, that there was a split strategy across the field between taking tyres and not for the final stop of the race.
I know, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, again, something I was actually discussing with Ivo before the race. Now, I said to Ivo, normally try and put a number on it, I think, is what you've got to do some of the time, is you've got to put a number on it. Okay, so I think, well, look at the suspension drop on the TCR car. Great camera angle here from Matthias de Haan. But I mean, the Gas TCRs are just so close. Look at that train. That's for the lead, everyone, bear in mind. That is still for the lead, and we've had 20 minutes of this. This will be going on for 2 hours. I can almost, touch wood, I can always guarantee. Yeah, so, like, put a number on it. I think the time and the confidence that you can have by new and fresh rubber, or by getting new and fresh rubber, I think it outweighs the time that you save in the pits. I really think it does. It's a tricky one. It's such a tricky one because, yeah, when I talk about sort of put a number on it, I'm normally talking about the tyre wear. Like I was saying, anywhere like around maybe 70-75% of tyre wear is probably worth taking tyres. If you're going through them that quickly, when you start to get about sort of like 60%, you start to feel a drop-off. Again, a drop-off around Nürburgring is even more noticeable because you just lose all your confidence. And that's where, similar to Bathurst, that is where confidence is gained. That's where time is gained. It's through confidence. But meanwhile, what's going to happen here, I think, is there going to be a move between Michael Polasek and Erstein Herfjord? I wonder if he, again, is just saving fuel. Yeah, bump drafting. Look, we saw that last time out. It's just bump drafting all the way down. We saw it quite a bit last time out until it went a little bit wrong. I'm sure, I can't remember for the life of me yet who it was, but yeah, bump drafting works up until a certain point.
Yeah, up until the point where it all goes horribly wrong, I think, isn't it? That's usually the only situation where you see it. Look at that, peeling off into the pits very early on.
Interesting.
Herfjord, and I don't think that's going to work out till the end of the race because the fuel in these cars lasts for about 1.5 hours. So maybe Erstein, he's lost out because he had the qualifying set on. Again, another driver potentially getting caught out there. And look at this. Now, all of a sudden, they've seen that the lead is between these two drivers. They're going to fight for it all of a sudden. They're quite happy to sit behind when they were second and third. But as soon as they go first and second, they're like, right, here we go. Time to fight.
I know. But I say, it's Erstein Herfjord. He's pulled into the pits. It's just released everyone else. It's just released absolutely... everyone. We've just pulled the gaps up, as you can see there. But yeah, looking at the gap between Lusendord and Ravek hasn't actually increased this time out. I'm surprised at that. Well, normally the pace we saw with Van Lusendord and the pace that he pulled out initially hasn't really increased from that 7.5 second gap that we saw. Alex Neller just saying in the chat, saying, nope, Herfjord will have to stop again. So, interesting tactic. There. I mean, yeah. I mean, we could see this developing. Like I said, we're not actually going to really see this developing until the very, very, the last 20 minutes of the race. So if Erstein Herfjord can put in the pace, then I have no reason why he can't pull back up to the position that he was before. One of the things that you've got to remember is the traffic. You've got quite a lot of GT3 cars and GT4 cars as well. So you've got to try and negotiate traffic as best you can. Although sometimes being on your own with traffic, that maybe can help.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about just trying to find where you're best. Some drivers are better in traffic. Some drivers are better with a bit of clear air. And I think in this scenario, in these sorts of races, it doesn't matter too much about your management of traffic. It's a lot because you do run, obviously, a lot more in clear air. However, if you're in, say, the Nurburgring 24 hours, it is definitely a lot more about managing the traffic across the course of the race. And it's not necessarily the fastest drivers that win, but the drivers that deal with the other classes the best. As we see now, the fight is still going on. This is for second place, of course. Martin van Rijbeck and Jamie Malema in the Iris Netherlands orange car in hot pursuit of Simpac Noise Orange. This fight is one that hopefully we can see carry on right till the very end, isn't it? Because look at this. It's a great fight as we see them going through Flansgarten there. They were just... Look at that. It's so good, isn't it? Just to see the cars with their headlights. Nice little bit of dawn starting to show through the sun beginning to rise. To make their way through the Beloff S is, I think, one of my favourite bits of the Nordschleife. This is so fast. Quick direction change. You have to slow it down again for the last few corners before the Dottinger straight. Maximum concentration needed before you can finally... I suppose let it slip a little bit. Maybe if you've got teammates in the voice call, you can talk a little bit about strategy, talk a bit about if there's cars behind, what you're going to do, if there's a car in front, if you want to pass now, or if you want to wait a little while, or just talk about how your day's been, really. You've got enough time.
Well, this is true. Yeah, absolutely. Got a better time. James Hall from E-Team. Oh, that was a hefty shunt. Almost loses it quite a way back, actually. Car just swapping ends, and unfortunately, that was a small crash. Hopefully not too much damage, though. But I wonder if James Hall actually pitted. He has indeed, yes. So he did have to pit to repair that damage. Luis Correa has had another moment. That's an interesting way to go through. Oh, again, it's that last bit, isn't it? You almost think, this is one of the things with Nordschleife, you almost think you saved it. You almost think you've got away with it, and then it goes, nope, and then it puts you in a wall. Like, you've got to be so... you've got to be really, really quite careful. Actually, it's got a couple more. This is Bart Daleman that's had a moment here. So Bart Daleman currently P6 of the GT4 class. Oh, is he going to be out the wall? Nope. That didn't look too bad, though. So hopefully that looks all okay. This is Luis Correa again. Now, this is onto the GP, so it all just goes a little bit wide.
Yeah. A little bit too hot into the corner there.
Just a fraction.
Classic TCR sort of understeer moment where you're trying to turn it in, but it just doesn't listen. This is Ivo Loption out in Positively Racing. Oh, was out onto the grass, then off into the wall. Does he manage to avoid the wall a second time? No, he doesn't. Meets it once more. Loses out the position. I think that was to Curtis Newkirk. However, those weren't heavy hits into the wall. You can see the left-hand side of the car is seemingly all together in one piece. However, Lotion out into the pits. So this is not a scheduled pit stop for the Positively Racing driver. He does have a fast repair he can take, though, to repair any suspension damage that he might be suffering at this stage in the race. I don't know, though, if he's going to be able to get away with this till the end of the race. I think we might be needing to see him pit maybe 2 more times for this, which will be bitterly disappointing. I don't think his fuel will last the whole 2 hours or 1 hour to have the pit stop to last till the end. I think he's going to have to take 2.
Yeah, a bit of a shame, isn't it? Yeah, not ideal. But we'll see. I mean, who knows? Obviously, that, Ivo could pull something completely out of the hat. We simply don't know. But yeah, there is a good chance that he will, as you said, have to make 2 more stops after this. One of the main things, though, again, it's if you can an incident with that fast repair obviously really does help. But even an incident that you can salvage from, as long as you're within your pit window, you don't necessarily lose as much time as you actually think. So I've actually just looking into the YouTube chat as well. Obviously, when we initially said that Ursine Herfjord will have to stop, might not have to stop again, I think I mentioned that. That is incorrect. He would have to stop again. So he's a pit stop down, essentially.
Yes.
So he's about
this fuel only lasts, I think, 1.5 hours in these TCR cars. So we've got to get about another hour of these cars fighting for the lead. But yeah, like we saw it in the YouTube chat, Ursine Herfjord losing out massively there because I think it was just a misjudgment. Maybe as soon as the car got moving, he realized, oh dear, the IRS spotters told me I've got about 2 laps of fuel left. Oh no. I think I don't know if that was the words he would have used, but I think that's the words we could use on broadcast.
I was about to say much more colourful language, I think, but possibly. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, bit frustrating there, but at the same time, it's a learning curve, isn't it? You've got to be.
We've all been there, haven't we?
I've been there way too many. I've actually done it as well, where I actually stopped, and this is one of my most embarrassing moments. Luckily, it was in my relatively new iRacing career. And for some reason, I was leading a race. Can't remember what it was. For the life of me, it might have been an IMSA or something. And I, for some reason, thought that the race had ended when we had 1 lap to go. And I just stopped on the pits. I just stopped, jumped to the pits. I was like, sweet, happy days, taking the win. And then realised, I was like, why is everyone still driving around? Took way too long to clock that I'd pulled in for some reason a lap early. So it was a bit of a brain fart moment then. So yes, we have all been there. And as long as you learn from it, I think that's the main thing, isn't it? I can say to you, I've never done that since.
Good to know then. Good to know that you've got that at your system. I'll tell you what, these TCRs, looking at the action on track, they're going to be ever so close, aren't they? Coming up to the London Straight, just the second carousel and the right-hander afterwards to go before we see the cars all maybe start battling. Look at this. They're already battling before they get up there, and that is Miguel Freitas up into 3rd place around the outside. Yes, he does. He gets that place done. Not fought too heavily by Preben Vala in the other Luminous Racing car. The other Norwegian, seeing if he can use the slipstream now to his advantage down the straight. Miguel Freitas, though, is going to be picking up a tow from the cars in front. Not massive, but still enough to potentially keep him safe from Preben further behind. Are they going to be battling further in front? No, they do have a little bit of a margin to work with. Very close, isn't Michael Polasek to the rear bumper? In fact, so is that. They're all bump drafted up there. Wow, they're all trying to work together now.
Yeah, well, there you go. That was an on-board shot there from Matthias de Haan. Does pull off, obviously, as we go now into the last couple of corners, the last couple of complexes. But yeah, I mean, I genuinely thought, obviously, especially when we had the first round, I really didn't know what to expect. Obviously, I'd been in the situation of racing at Nurburgring with all the different classes, but I normally race in GT3, so I'd never actually had the opportunity to watch some of the racing that goes on with the TCR's cars, and it is just absolutely fantastic. It's never ending. I think that's the main thing, is it's just absolutely never ending. And I mean, to be fair, that again, as for us said, that's never a bad thing, is it? I'm happy to commentate on this for we got 2 hours left, just under 2 hours. I'm more than happy to go through and commentate with these TCRs and how they're battling now, because it is great fun to watch. Again, it's the accordion effect of what we've seen. Like, it starts to open up. You see drivers that are sort of better in some areas, slower in some areas, and then it all sort of like Constantine is up again and stuff. Because at the moment, you again look, Matthias de Haan, he's pulled that 0.4 of a second out of Michael Polasek at this moment in time, and that stays pretty much the same, maybe sort of give or take a couple of tenths here and there, all the way through Nordschleife, and then you come to the Dottinger straight, and then it all condenses up again. It's, unless you can clear 2 seconds or a second and a half in or through the Nordschleife, it's very, very difficult to even comprehend the pulling away, purely because that toe is so big and the straight is so long, especially in these cars.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm really excited to see is that there's fighting across all of the classes, especially at the front of each class as well, because Isaac Barkley, he's not been able to pull away from Seb Herber. The gap is still about half a second between first and second in GT4. The psychological warfare from the back of Isaac Barkley. Yeah, you can see it here as they make their way through. In fact, actually, I don't think that is Comic Sans. Actually, I thought it was, but maybe it was my eyes trying to make me fear the worst. That actually, no, I'm not sure if that is or not. That might be. Oh dear.
It's definitely not Arial, is it? it's
no,
it's
definitely not a Times New Roman. I don't know my fonts. If only we had Chaz Straker, our sort of resident techno wizard and graphic design is my passion. He's gonna be able to tell us exactly what that font
it might
is.
be. You're
In
right.
Fact, actually, no, that is Comic Sans.
Oh no,
it was. My mind was trying to deny it, or it was trying to tell me it wasn't the case. But oh dear, oh dear. Let's look back up though to the GT3 class, because second place and third are still inseparable, aren't they? Jim Malema right up behind Martin van Roewick still for second place. And look, they're going down the Dottinger straight now. Are we going to see a change of position?
Well, we could potentially, or again, we're just sitting there saving fuel. Great static shot there. I love static cameras that sort of like give you that sense of speed, especially going through how fast these cars are actually going. 200. Actually, we'll just get the dashboard up. I'm intrigued to see the pace that these guys really do have. 271 Ks is Martin Reivik coming down now, but the gap is
nearly 280. Wow.
It's not slow, is it? It's definitely not slow. And then you've got such a heavy braking zone as well. I think that's one of the main things, is you've got such a heavy braking zone now coming down into the last couple of corners. You've got to be really, really careful, because if half a second later on the brakes, with carrying that amount of speed, if it goes wrong, it generally tends to go very, very wrong. But Jamie, believe it, has indeed got past. But that was to be fair, pretty straightforward pass there. I actually might see if we can get an onboard shot of actually the goings on there. And again, as you can see here, again, pretty straightforward. Didn't really have to do much. You could hear, actually, one of the interesting things, you could hear that as soon as he pulled out of the toe, you heard the revs almost drop ever so slightly as it just smashes into air at 280 kilometers an hour. But yeah, Martin Reivik, he knew not to really defend that position too hard. And now it's role reversal. So Martin Reivik, he's now going to be able to save all of this fuel as well. So yeah, I think, to be honest, Martin Reivik was wise to let that go, because now, like I said, he has the opportunity to get the jump in the pits on Jamie Belima.
Yeah, but now the key question now is, was Jamie Malema being held up? Was he slower through the corners because of the car in front, and now could he build a margin to Martin van Roewick? It doesn't seem so at the moment, and this is Bart Daleman. Well, as he had here, he's had another moment. He's already going slow, had a little bit of an off track there. Collects it nicely though, doesn't he? But I can see that he's still at the back, so he's not been able to close in to the fight up in front just yet. It was very well held though, wasn't it, from Bart Daleman there. And Martin van Roewick, he's close. He seems to be quite strong last time out on that sort of GP loop. Although, to be fair, at the Nordschleife as well, he's pretty good as well. It's just about seeing if Jamie Malema can be that little bit better.
Well, I mean, to be fair, this is what we're going to see. We're going to probably see this sort of like cat and mouse thing for again, you've seen these little pockets. You know, it's sort of spread out with the field a little bit, and this is where again the confidence sort of bit comes into it. Is if you've got confidence in the Nordschleife section, you will gain time. You can gain a surprising amount of time. There is absolutely no question. There's no question of the fact. So, yeah, we're seeing these sort of like gaps open up now. So you're looking, like I said, you know, between 3, 4, even 5 seconds between some of these cars. They will condense up. Okay, towards the late half of the race, especially when you go through traffic. Obviously, you've got another, another 16, 17 cars. Doesn't sound like a lot, but especially places something of the, you got the train of 5, the leading 5 in the TCR category. As soon as the drivers, well, what's Martin Revic going to do? I thought he was going to try and make a move then. The camera angle looked like he was a lot closer than what he actually was. So Martin Revic, though, he's still putting his car in a position to try and upset Jeremy Lambert. Again, that mind game, isn't it? It's just trying to put your car always constantly in a different mirror, always moving about, trying to upset the other person and put them off. At the moment, though, Jeremy Lambert holding his ground, does not break at this moment in time, but the gap is very, very close, 0.2 of a second. What it's going to do, I mean, to be fair, Martin Revic, he's got to have a very, very brave move to try and get past Jeremy Lima, because at the moment, going through Nordschleife, I mean, positions are very few and far between to be had.
Yeah, definitely. Look at this, though. Ryback, he was very close earlier on. He just backs out of these little moves. He's just putting a lot of pressure on, maybe trying to force Jamie into a mistake, trying to see if there's anywhere that the iRace Netherlands orange driver is vulnerable or prone to making mistakes. He had a little bit of a run a little bit wide, missing the apex at the top of Foxhole, but seems to have got the car back under control now. Meanwhile, Seb Herbert makes his way into the pit lane and is that our race leader that is either trying a different strategy, maybe pitting slightly earlier. I don't know. I think this might be his splash and dash early on, or does he have a little bit of damage? Oh, he's dropped back. Oh, yes, he does. He comes into the wall, really sort of hugging the right-hand side. I think this could be, well, this is going to be his first stop of the race. The question is, will he be able to get away with just the one extra stop, or will he be needing to make a total of 3 stops this race? The main strategy, I think, is going to be for these GT4 drivers, as we see on board of Seb Herber's damage. Then does he have a bit of steering angle? Oh, not, or maybe a little bit there. You can see he's turning a little bit further right to keep the car in a straight line. I don't know. It might be the smallest amount of damage, but the car, I don't think it feels quite right for him, and he obviously pulls off into the pits. I don't know, Dan, do you think he's going to be able to take 1 more stop, or will it be 2 for Seb towards the end of the race?
I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, yeah, fuel saving is definitely going to be a thing that's needed. I think that's definitely something that we can, I think, all agree on. It's tricky. It's very, very tricky. So yeah, Sebastian Herbera, definitely not having this race as easy. I mean, to be fair, he didn't exactly make it easy for himself last time out. But definitely, he's not making it easy for himself yet again for this round. He maybe just likes to add just an element of drama to his race. But yeah, honestly, I really don't know. I've not really experienced much or enough of these GT4 cars to, obviously now that McLaren's out, I'm definitely going to be experiencing more and driving more of them. But I've not really had too much in terms of endurance racing with the GT4 cars. So, I mean, I'm sure with some fuel saving, which you can save a lot of fuel around here, maybe the 1 stop is maybe the 1 stop is going to be there. So, I mean, we're gonna have to see. I think it's close. I think whichever way you look at it, it is going to be very, very close. Meanwhile, we've got Bart Delman that's also in the pits. Ben Hoffman, actually, we've got a couple more replays here. So Ben Hoffman has had a crash from the year 1 race. Oh, no, his car's looking a bit more damaged from that. Let's see if we can rewind that. Interestingly enough, I'm not entirely sure what actually happened from... Yes, we just almost, the replay for some reason, couldn't quite catch all of it. We just catch the tail end, but I mean, you can see he's missing bonnet, front bumper's gone. Yeah, that's going to be a long old tow there, Ed. And he won't be getting out of the car. He's still in the pit lane. And that was a good 2-3 minutes ago.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure. Like you mentioned, what's going on? Sorry, though, if I'm sounding a bit garbled. My internet is having a slight moment. I'm trying to get it fixed in the background. I don't know how it's sounding, Dan.
That sounds okay. I can hear loud and clear.
Ah, That's all right then. My internet was having a slight mare earlier, so it's glad to know that it's sort of got itself back on the right track. And yeah, like you mentioned, Seb Herber, he's going to be in with a job. However, we do know he is good at these comeback drives. We could still see him within a shot for a race victory.
Oh, I mean, to be fair, there's an hour and 40 minutes left. I mean, if anyone that's going to pull that out of the bag, it's definitely going to be Seb Herber. I mean, yeah, you know, you can't deny that the pace that Seb has got. So yeah, I'm sure we're going to be very interested. It's going to be very, very cool to see that happening. Actually, do you know what? I've actually just looked. The gap was 0.6 of a second between Jamie Malima and Martin Vrejevic. It's now down to 0.3 of a second again, going down the dotting hoe. This is such a key area that you can just gain so much time on. But again, what's going to happen here? Is it going to be a role reversal? Is Jamie going to try and come back round on Martin? He pulls out of the slipstream. Is it going to be a done and dusted move? I think it is going to be. There's nothing that Vrejevic can do at this point. Anything he can do is actually, no, he's actually taking the fight to him. They're going to go potentially side by side down into these last complex of corners. Oh my goodness, chat. Oof, that was close. Jamie Olimia has to back out of it. So Martin Vrejevic, he is not wanting to give up this position this time around. He gave it up once. He's moved back and he's not wanting to give that position up again. And to be fair, I wouldn't blame him. Trap position, even some place like Nurburgring, is key. It more so helps, I think, and more so trap position is more so key when you've got a lot more cars out on track that you're lapping, because you want to almost try and make that position sit. Jeremy, he actually goes a little bit defensive, into turn one. Obviously, he thought that Martin Vrejevic was going to make that move stick, but yeah. So I mean, this is gonna be another hour and 40 minutes of this. Obviously, pit stops. That's going to be a big telltale to who saved more fuel. Is what the gap is at the end of the pit stop. That's going to be a big thing. Out of the first
that is going to be
gap?
That's going to be massive, isn't it? Yeah, the pit stops when they come into effect and seeing which driver's been able to save the most amount of fuel, who's going to be able to have maybe a shorter pit stop. Well, they're not really going to tell, are they, at this early stage of the race, who's been able to save the most amount of fuel, because you only really find that out towards the end in the final pit stops, and that's when we really get the truest reflection of what the field are going to be doing. However, I'm thinking about the tyres. Would it be smarter, if you are knowing that you're going to be taking tyres, say in the GT3 field, would it be smarter to take the tyres on your first pit stop or on the end? Because I feel like if it was me, I'd take it at the earlier stage.
Yeah, same here. You've got to. The track temp is so much cooler. At this point, I think it would be very, very wise to really take that, as we can see. So the track temp now at the moment is looking at it. Yeah, so 18 degrees air temp and then 90 degrees track temp. That will rise probably quite quickly. It probably won't rise it probably won't be any much warmer, maybe sort of like 24, 25. But it's actually, again, around Nurburgring, you need that advantage. You need as much advantage as you can get. A couple of replays to look out for. So obviously Martin Vrejevic actually passed on Jamie Malima again. So we had a bit of a run. Jamie, bit of a slow run out of the Schumacher S's. And then Martin Vrejevic, again, that was a move that was pretty much done and dusted. Nice and straightforward. Jamie trying to get the move back, but couldn't quite get it stuck. And then this is Matteo Sufi that's actually taken, he overtook. So that would be why, because Nick Sherman's had a bit of a moment. And this will be the replay of that hit. Just grabs the curb. And I mean, fair play. Fair play. Oh, actually, no. I thought he was going to keep out of the wall. And then actually hit it twice, just for good measure. But yeah, a bit of a shame. A bit of shame there from Nick Sherman's. But that was the overtake that happened there from Matteo Sufi. Yeah, so the weather, it's going to probably... It's going to get warmer. So yeah, tyres as early as possible. Actually, no, sorry. I may have even I think I may have actually misinterpreted your question there, Ed. Do you want to ask that again? Because I think I got completely sidetracked with replays. I actually forgot what the bulk of the grid is. Sorry. It
was about, would you, if you're thinking you might have to take tyres, do you decide to take them earlier on for your first stop and basically bank on the fact that you've taken tyres, everyone else is going to take tyres, or if they stay on them, they're going to be shot till the end? Or do you take a gamble, try to make the sort of the tyres last from the start till the end, and then just settle down with the realization that maybe towards the final bit of the race, you take the tyres at that phase of the race, at the end. Because I don't know, I think if it was me, I'd be taking them basically at your first pit stop.
Right, I see. Okie dokie. So
Because it's a bit of a question, it's a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? When you're in the car, do you think, right, it's smarter to take the tyres at this phase of the race, or do you gamble for, well, the 0 stop on tyres? I don't know. If it was me, I'd be taking the tyres because I want to have a car that's nice and stable and got the grip around this track.
yeah, I think that's something that you want to always make sure that you have got. So actually, look at this, Sebastian Herber. He's making his way through the field already. So he's overtaken Nick Sherman. So we're going to get a replay of that while we just see the replay of what happens there. While also Nick, I think, goes a little bit wide. Yeah, Nick Sherman goes a little bit wide, and that opens the gap up. And then we're going back on. So this is going to be side by side between Seb Herbera and this is Andy Jones, who I believe Andy was in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he may have actually been in the McLaren last time out. Or I could be completely making that fact up. And he was always in the Porsche. But I know that was someone that was obviously in the McLaren. But Seb Herbera goes back into P3. Gap is quite big, though. The gap is actually massive, in fact. Meanwhile, as well, we've got the battle up ahead still kicking off between Martin Ravik and Jamie Malima. So this is definitely these drivers not giving up absolutely anything at any moment in time. These guys are just wanting track position off of each other. Yeah, to answer your... I think actually so it was my fault, Ed. I misinterpreted your question. So what I would probably do is I'd be taking the tyres after the first... I wouldn't take the tyres in the first stop. Now, the reason behind that is because you want to see what the tyre wear is. If the tyre wear is actually quite good, then you could probably, and if you're confident and comfortable, you could probably leave tyres on and go around in that first stop. It does save you that little bit of extra, time. It's a tricky one. Look at that. The TCR car, though, is just... I mean, this is the problem with Nordschleife. This is the problem with the Nordschleife in some scenarios. You have to just sit behind a slower class car. Obviously, didn't really make too much of a difference. The gap was actually quite small. The gap was pretty close between Ravik and Malima anyway, but that's definitely not helped. It's very easy to get into a flow, I think. Well, actually, sorry, it's very hard to get into a flow at Nordschleife, but it's very easy to be broken of that flow, you know? I think that's...
Oh, no, absolutely, yeah. That's something that we're going to be seeing time and time again is these cars ever so close, fighting for on-track positions, bumper to bumper. Great stuff to see, but we have got a few TCR cars at the front of the shot that these drivers, they're going to try and make their way through, aren't they? It's all about the traffic management now at this stage of the race. But like you mentioned, I'm going to come back to that point you mentioned about the tyres, because that's going to be something that I was thinking, if it was me, you can have a little bit of a peek at what the tyres are doing on iRacing before you decide, right, click change the tyres, because you still got little time to do fuel. It does fuel and then tyres right afterwards. If it was me, I'd be having a look, then deciding, right, I'm going to take tyres now at this stage of the race, because then you're going to have more time spent with the faster car. You're going to have more time spent with the grippier car, the better tyres, and even later on in the race, if other drivers decide to use their final stop to take tyres, the gap isn't going to be too pronounced if you were to keep the tyres off, I think, for the end of the race.
Yeah, that's true.
Because you're still going to have that relative amount of grip towards the end.
Yeah, that's true. It is tricky, isn't it? I mean, we may see people not take tyres at all and be very, very brave. I think, again, one of the things around Nurburgring is, again, you've got generally around most track, you've got a faster strategy and a slower strategy. Now, obviously, the shorter the pit stop, the better. The less tired, that all comes around to the shorter the pit stop is obviously the key thing. But at a place like Nürburgring, similar to a certain extent of Bathurst, but the problem is, again, Nürburgring is just so much longer, is if you've got a car that is confident and you're confident with, I mean, that does just put so much more lap time onto. I mean, we're talking seconds here. Several seconds if you've got the car underneath you and you know you've got the car underneath you. So, I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? There's a million different strategies you could sort of go down, and I don't necessarily think for an individual one is any quicker or slower than the other. And again, that's just because of the track that we're on. Any other track, Silverstone, Spa, Monza, anything like that, I would have said take tyres, or I probably would have said not bothering taking tyres at all. It's probably not worth it for 2.5 hours. You could probably stretch them. But yeah, something like that, something like here, Nordschleife.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely different.
It's because this track is so hard on everything, isn't it? It's hard on the fuel. The drivers aren't really able to make the fuel last the whole hour, like a whole hour that you might be able to in other sort of races. However, it's also really hard on the tires as well. Usually, a lot of circuits are either one or the other. Say like Le Mans, Daytona, Monza. They're usually quite hard on fuel, but less on tires. Although if you go, say, somewhere like Silverstone, they're usually really hard on the tires, but less so on the fuel. So it's very strange to have a circuit that's hard on both, but it means that drivers, they need to have good race management ability. They need to work together with their teammates in the background, doing all fuel calculations and everything like that to get a good result.
Yeah, 100%. It's a team effort. Like Nurburgring is such a team. It's such a team effort. Obviously, we're prepping. We're already prepping. No track driving, obviously, but we're already prepping now for the 24, exploring different strategies. How much fuel can we realistically probably save? Looking at data from last time that we did, there's so many different things that you can look at. And again, like it's strategy. Where is your strategy going to be? Apologies if you heard that knocking noise. I just smashed my hand on my desk. Not ideal. Yeah, so it's a track unlike any other, and it's a race. Any endurance racing, any sprint racing, you take all of your knowledge and almost all of it in terms of strat is made redundant. It's because you just really don't know what you want to do. And in some cases, it's good in a way in some cases because it throws so much action. Like so much action. In another way, though, it's very frustrating. I suppose it's good for a spectator, for a broadcaster and a commentator point of view, so our perspective, because we get a load of good racing. But not ideal for the drivers who just get frustrated in certain circumstances because you have to take a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? It's all about trying to avoid making those gambles, trying to make sure you keep yourself in the best contention. Maybe manage the race a little bit softer earlier on, then towards the end, start to roll the dice a bit, start to put on a bit of pace and see what you can get from the end, because that's when the points are scored. That's when it really counts, isn't it? It's not about, I led 3 hours, say in the real life Nordschleife, not the real life, but in the 24 hours, say, we led 50 laps, but it doesn't matter about leading 50 laps, is it? It's all about leading the one at the end. And that's something that is very difficult to do, is to position yourself in the best position towards the end and to get a great result. Well, they say it's a marathon, not a sprint, but sometimes you need to be sprinting all the way through the marathon in these, especially at the Nordschleife, I find.
I think that's an interesting point in itself. Like that's a very interesting point actually. And I can't remember. I think I was watching, or I think I was listening to Radio Le Mans. Actually, I'm just going to interrupt myself because we've got a replay saying that Isaac Barkley has had a crash. The leading GT4 car, the number 718 Porsche. A very, very good name. Oh, that's a sideways moment. Does he manage to keep it out of the barrier? Yes, he does. It was just a spin. Still a loss, though. That's 10 seconds lost. Probably even... Actually, no, that's more than that. It's probably 15, 20 seconds of time lost. So the time is there to be lost. But at the same time, Sebastian Herbera, I mean, he obviously had that moment. He had to take... He's got that fast repair, though. So if he can make the fuel last, I mean... I think that's put Isaac Barkley potentially in P2 when the pit stops are all sort of done and dusted. I think.
I think you might be right, but that is also, I was going to say that even if Isaac Barkley didn't have that mistake, because don't forget, Seb Herbera, he pitted so much earlier, took less fuel on board to get that full fuel tank. So by that logic, I'd expect Isaac Barkley's stop to be a bit longer, and he'd be coming out right behind Seb Herbera. We might be seeing that gap a little bit bigger than we were expecting, though, when the pit stops start to happen in the GT4 class. And I'm still looking at this TCR fight because look at that. It's very tasty, isn't it?
It is. I mean, like I said, we've just got battling all up and down the field. This is the closest one at the moment. Again, Jamie, you just hear him just lifting off the brakes at this moment in time. Doesn't really want to try and push too hard. Although Rejevek did have a pretty slow exit I come through again, such a fast left-hander. Again, apologies, I have absolutely no idea for corner names, and to be fair, I do not want to butcher them any more than I'm sure you would want to hear me try and butcher them. Yeah, Jamie Oliver, it's got some good pace on this sort of like latter half, and this latter half of the track going into the first carousel, he has got some good pace. Again, another corner where you can really gain or lose time here. Did lose a little bit though. Almost like driving, I find driving down on the inside off of that concrete sort of, you actually can lose a bit of time if you drive on it too much, which we saw Jamie did lose a little bit of time there. But yeah, I think going back to your point, Ed, it's an interesting point, a very interesting point, because I think I was listening to Radio Le Mans. I think it was Radio Le Mans, and good old John Hindhoff was saying that, and this was talking about obviously Le Mans 24. A bit about Marcus here though for the leading cars. I keep interrupting myself here. Ooh, that was very, very close, but the move had to be made at some point sooner rather than later. I can imagine the Audi may need a new race suit after that, Ed.
Yeah, maybe that was, I believe, Ryan Walker in the Nomad VLN car, just trying to avoid these battling GT3s. And that's the smart thing to do when you see cars like that fighting close in class position. You don't want to put yourself in the mix. You want to try and just get out of the way or get through them as soon as safely as possible. If they're fighting, if you're in the faster car, don't send them into the corners. Just wait a little bit and power out, use acceleration to get through and use slipstream. It's just so much safer to avoid fighting cars, especially for higher positions in class. And I think that's something that maybe a few drivers that race officials in IMSA might need to hear, because I was doing a few races like that, and sadly they don't seem to realize that it's not wise to send it on battling cars so they end up taking themselves out of the race.
Yes, I have been there. I have definitely been in that position as well. It's not ideal from both parties' side. Yeah, I mean, the gap, it was close, but I mean, to be fair, they were so close before, it's not really made much difference. Although I wonder if Jamie's actually can try and make a move. He is very, very close. So he probably might actually let off for a little bit. He might not actually make any moves too soon, because if he does make a move too soon, then potentially we can have him come right back. We've actually now got two battles going on, because Michael Polasek is very, very close to Matthias de Haan. The gap last time I looked was 0.6 of a second. It's now, well, it was 1/10 of a second. It's now gone up again since then. But look at that, Jamie Oliver. He has made the move stick. Can Martin Revik, is he going to try and pull into the slipstream and try and make that position back? I wonder if Jamie's actually done it too early. Look at that. He pulls back out. Even just that little bit of a run, it might very well just be enough. They're going to go side by side, gents. Take it easy. Wow. That was
very smart there from Martin van Rooyen, backing out of that as they went side by side through Tiergarten. But now look at this, sideways going out of final corner. They're going to be going both into the pit lane, and now we're going to see the battle of the cars in the pits. Who's going to come out on top? Martin van Loosenord already is in the pit stall and is our race leader, taking tyres. Let's have a look. No, he's not up on the jacks, I don't think so. Martin van Loosenord is going for the strategy potentially to take these tyres till the end. Meanwhile, as Martin van Loosenord, our race leader, gets off back underway for the race, what is this fight in the pits between Van Rooyen and Jamie Malema? Jamie Malema gives way to Pascal Tigelaar in iRace Netherlands Orange, but I think Van Rooyen staying in the car.
I tell you what, I've never been so excited to see what happens on the exit. Never been so excited to see what happens on pit. It is going to be who is going to get the jump out first. I don't think either of these guys are taking tyres, interestingly enough. I almost sort of want to go because we've got the battle with the TCR cars that's happening here as well. This is the battle, again, a 5-car train from these guys. The battle is sort of even Stevens at this moment in time. But again, going back, so we see
Tigelaar's taking tyres and as well, so is Rooyen. Yes, so they're doing the strategy of taking tyres early on in the race. They don't feel like they can last it till the end, whereas Van Loosenord, our race leader, has taken, well, the alternative strategy, not taking tyres at this early stage of the race. As we see now, Paul Klist still going. Has he come into the pit yet? No, he hasn't, but I think on this lap we'll expect to see Paul Klist making his way through the pit lane. So look though on pit exit, Martin van Rooyen coming out in 3rd position. And where's Pascal Tigelaar?
All the way back there.
All the way back there. So I'm not sure what was going on there. Maybe there was a few optional repairs that were taken by iRace Netherlands Orange, because they both came into the pits. They both stopped at basically identical times. Now that means that if there was any damage that was slowing down Pascal, in fact, actually no, they wouldn't even matter because they have fast repairs. Why would they be taking optionals?
Could be
So
fuel.
I'm not sure what was going on there with the pit stops to leave them so far apart from one another. Was it fuel saving? I don't think fuel saving would have done that severe amount of a time. They both went up on the jacks. In fact, actually, I think Tigala went up on the jacks earlier, so there might have been an issue with pulling away, maybe something to do with calibrating wheels, or maybe something was going on. I don't know, but Pascal Tigala not quite up to Van Roebeck. However, well, decent. He's kept it going, hasn't he? He's not taken tyres whatsoever. He's kept those boots on since the start of the race. And I think Rob Tyson, that was the driver we saw early on, wasn't it? Have a little bit of a moment. Actually, no, Rob Tyson was the driver we saw have a moment early on and coming to the pits earlier as well. So Rob Tyson, we're expecting him to come into the pits later on in the race. He might just be able to make it till the end with one more pit stop, but I think it might be a little bit too close for comfort for Rob Tyson.
Yes, I mean, so we're looking at these pit stops. The pit stops last. The drivers last about 7 laps. I think 7 laps is the golden number. You can't realistically get any more than that. And how long do we reckon these cars actually last? And so it's about 55 minutes. Do these cars last?
Yes, it's about 55 minutes. However, I think this time we saw them. They extended a little while longer and made it to about 58 or so minutes before coming on into the pits. But that's obviously with a bit of fuel saving. And don't forget as well, the lap times here are around about, 8 minutes long, aren't they? So the drivers, if they're able to save an extra lap of fuel, it has a massive effect on the remainder of their stint, because it's basically they've saved, instead of just a lap of fuel, they've also saved 8 minutes worth of fuel, which seems a lot bigger, doesn't it? Whereas at other tracks, if you save a lap of fuel, it's good. But if you can save 8 minutes worth of fuel over a stint at a track like Silverstone, for example, you'd be absolutely laughing, wouldn't you? You'd be in a great position. However, these TCRs, they last about 1.5 hours. I think the pit window is open for any of these drivers, should they choose to come into the pits now and try a bit of an undercut strategy. However, that means that their tyres, while early on they'd be in a good shape, they might be able to go a little bit quicker. Towards the end, they'll be losing a lot of performance. I think, though, TCRs are one of the few cars where an undercut strategy does work, because they munch through the front tyres, and then when they come out of the box, they'll have fresh rubber on. They'll be actually able to go quicker than their competitors, even in this bit of a slipstream train. Might work out for them. That could be something for these drivers to think about.
Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. You've got to look. I mean, I probably wouldn't try and make an undercut with with how close these guys are. The problem is, if you now come off of this train, you're not going to have a tow all the way down the Dottingham and down this sort of back straight here. Like all the areas that you would gain a tow, and you are gaining a tow being in this train, you're going to lose. So these guys aren't battling really that hard, if at all. So I think, to be fair, you lose more out if you try and do the undercut, if I'm honest. So these guys are going to be coming in. I would, unless they can save an incredible litre or a lap's worth of fuel, then I don't reckon. Although, actually, looking at what was that happening back there, that was that was actually a GT3 car getting involved.
That is our race leader, Matt Van Loosenord, getting his way on through and shaking up this pack a little bit now. And he's going to be... It's very scary, isn't it, when you're in a fast class and you see so many cars fighting for position. You want to get through as quickly, but also as safely as you can. Going to look to the inside now. Ooh, very close indeed. Shuffling the pack through. Is he going to send it? Oh, a slight send on. That is Matthias de Hain, Manatee Racing TCR. And he's shuffled the pack a little bit, increased the gaps for some of the cars, but the slipstream, it basically allows them to all close in to one another, and the gaps seem to maintain, don't they, around about half a second between one another on this Nordschleife section of the track. Might have been losing odd though. Heart and mouth stuff, isn't it? Especially when you catch drivers at that particular section of the Nordschleife, because it's so difficult, corner after corner, massive section of the track where you need to have the flow good, but by passing cars, it does disrupt your flow a little bit, as we do see now. GT4s coming into the pits. Isaac Barkley Matthew Sufi, Seb Herbera, and Andy Jones all making pit stops. And Seb Herbera, we saw him make a pit stop earlier on in the race. I thought he was going to be able to make it last all the way through, but it turns out no. He's coming into the pits at this stage as well.
I reckon what he's done, and I'm guessing he didn't take fuel. He didn't put fuel on board. And instead, what he's done is he's tried to keep on the same strategy. He reckons he's got pace to try and catch up. I mean, that's a tall order to catch up with. It's 30 seconds 30 seconds gap. That's a big gap. But he sort of like tried to stay on the same strategy. Whether that was intentional or a mistake potentially of fuel, I don't know. But I'd be to come in at the same lap rather than carry on, unless you've either deliberately or haven't got fuel in the car, or you didn't fill up beforehand. I think that's probably what has happened. So interesting. I mean, that's a big old margin. Sebastian Herbera is out. He's actually still in the pits. He's just left now, in fact. So the gap between himself and I believe that is. We just have a look. Just quickly jump on. Well, I want to get through what's going to happen here. Going to go through with this TCR again, the battle. This is Michael Polasek again, just pushing Matthias de Haan all the way down the dog ahead. Look how long that is. It feels like an eternity in these TCR cars, I can imagine. But to be fair, probably you want it over and done with if you've got another TCR pushing you behind. But the gap, it's closed up again. We've got, that is Mikel Garcia, who's just a little bit off of the pack ever so slightly. I say that he's actually caught straight back as he's just proved me immediately wrong and has just pulled that gap back down 0.4 of a second. So, I wonder if he's actually going to try and make a move. Potentially, we're going to see. The gap is close enough. I reckon there could be a move here to be made between Mikel Garcia and Miguel Freitas. I wonder, no changes at the start, though, and no changes across the field. So, yes, this five-way battle is still a five-way battle with no changes. Again, I just don't think it's the long game, isn't it? It is a marathon. It is a marathon for these guys. They just want to try and keep it as long as they can before any moves are made. And what was it? I think it was the last half hour. Did we really see the moves really start kicking off? And it all kicked off a little bit in TCR's head?
Yeah, it was sort of after the first and only pit stop, wasn't it? Where we saw drivers fighting very closely, even actually running up to the final pit, their first and final pit stop. They were fighting close, weren't they? Because they wanted that track position going into the pits to put them in with the best shot of taking the race victory. So maybe within the next 15 or so minutes, we're going to see the drivers start to turn the pace up a little bit on one another and start to fight for on-track positions as well. It's a five-way fight, isn't it, currently, for pole position. Each car within about half a second of one another. Ever so close indeed. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how these little battles are going to shape up as the race progresses. Look at that, though. I did say, didn't I, the first round, that keep an eye out for the TCRs, because based on previous experience, they put on a great show. And it seems even from top split VLN to these organized league events, the competition is ever so close in TCR, because the car itself just provides itself for great racing opportunities.
It does, absolutely. It absolutely does. And like I say, my first ever experience with commentating on a TCR event as well last time out, and I was thoroughly impressed and really enjoyed it. It's just non-stop. I think that's the main thing. It's just absolutely non-stop. With the battles that these guys do have. We're going to come to these TCR cars, come back to these cars in a moment, but I'm just looking, Ed, I don't know if you've clocked it as well. Pascal Tigelaar is catching up to Martin Reivik, and he's actually catching up at a pretty decent rate of knots. So, I mean, last laps, in terms of what these last laps were actually doing, we've got Martin Reivik. His last lap was Sega's last lap was 9 minute 33, and that'd be why, because of pit stops. Yeah, so I'm guessing that Martin Reivik pulled. I'm not entirely sure what's that, so I'll have to see when they cross the line. But the gap, 1.7 seconds. There we go. There is Pascal Tigelaar, and just up ahead, actually, his teammate, not too far, but actually no, sorry, I'm getting confused. I was getting confused with the timing tower. That is his teammate, Sander Vreeling. You got the Team IRNL orange car, and then behind you got the IRNL white car. That's the gap that's coming down. Apologies, I thought it was the gap between Pascal Tigelaar and Martin Reivik, but it's not. Instead, Sander Veiling is really closing that gap down, and actually quite quickly. I wonder, Team Orders, Ed, do we reckon? What's the bet?
I don't know. It might be a little bit of Team Orders coming into effect here. It's difficult to see, though, isn't it? Drivers, they never want to give positions to one another, but sometimes it makes sense, does it, for both parties to swap around and keep it nice and safe. So I think you might be on the money there. It all depends, though, doesn't it, on sort of, oh my word, what's happened here with James Hall? He's already got a bit of a moment, and then he was actually facing the wrong way when we came to him. I thought he was having a moment of facing the right way, but no, he does a 3 or 4 point turn, gets it up and moving. Oh, dipping that right hand rear wheel onto the curb, upping the rear of the car, then it bottoms out, spins him all the way around to the right into the wall. Oh dear, James Hall. Look at that. It's the smallest bit of contact that sends him looping all the way around. But that's what it is. The margins are ever so thin, aren't they, at the Nordschleife circuit, and it punishes any little mistake very heavily indeed. But what has happened as well, I've noticed that Ivo Lobscha's out of contention for the race, and I don't know, did we see a replay of what happened to him there?
You know, it's a good shout. I mean,
James Hall has another moment.
Oof. That was
He just can't catch a break.
No, he can't. No, he actually decided to drive the car backwards instead for the remainder of the race. Nope, he's doing another 3-point turn.
What is it? A certified Herbie moment, I think.
Yeah, James Hall, like I said, at the moment, not having the best of times with the Nurburgring. Again, I suppose in a way, you know, this is a learning curve in itself. Like, this is such a big learning curve. You've always got to be careful. Nordschleife does not take any prisoners, as we know. But yeah, it sounds like this is a learning curve. Obviously, there's 2 more rounds remainder for this series. So, you know, at the same time, you've got to have the you've always got to be cautious. You've got to be take these, but yeah, just learn from everything. Anything that happens, learn from it. What's happening down at the front here with the TTR car? So again, the leading train, always Constantina's up going through here because they will just barrel through. It's just one big long Audi TCR car. So are there any good moves to be made? I don't think there are. We saw a couple of very brave moves coming through down this sort of back section last time out. Are we going to see it again? We haven't seen anything. So again, are these drivers being a little bit more cautious, a little bit more controlled? Potentially, but you know, we still got hour and 12. Well, yeah, about an hour and 12, literally halfway through. As I said, that was good timing, wasn't it? So yeah, halfway through this race. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some moves left to be had. Another GT3 car in the background. Is that Rob Thiessen? I think it could very well be that is making the move. Let's have a look. It is indeed Rob Thiessen, who is just plodding along, doing what he needs to do at this moment in time, trying to get through the TCR field as quickly as he can and as safely as he can. Has a bit of a wiggle on, but manages to keep the car in check. Although that has actually released potentially. Who was that? Just having a bit of a moment. That was Miguel Garcia. It was that he was trying to... sorry, that was Miguel Freitas that he was trying to get by. And because of that, Miguel Freitas had a little bit of a moment. Allowed Miguel Garcia to catch up, but no move was made there. How long do we reckon, Ed? Another 15 minutes and these guys will be starting to pit, do we reckon? That's sort of the window, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's around about in that window for the drivers to make their pit stops. Going to see what they can do, what they can fuel saves. As we see fighting now, this is between Mathieu Soufi and Seb Herbera. Sebastian Herbera closing in. 64 racer against Simracersworld. Closing in. Seb Herbera, look at this. A massive amount of close speed, but he lifts off, doesn't he? He's saving fuel. He's not quite going for the position here. Instead, just putting him in for the best position. Look at the line he's able to take going through Tiercut, and he's got a great run now going into the first corner. He sweeps all the way outside. He's got to get the place done even before the braking zone by the looks of things, potentially. I think he might have had to back out just because of the closing speed, wasn't it? On acceleration. Is that going to give Mathieu Soufi? It does give him... No, it doesn't give him the inside line. Backs out of the maneuver. And Seb Herbera now up into second place, but the gap between himself and our race leader is 34 seconds. And with what, about 1 hour and 10 minutes remaining, it's going to be a tall order to close that margin.
We're gonna have to watch out. We're gonna have to keep a close eye on it, a very, very close eye on it, because, yeah, I mean, like I said, if there's anyone to do it, Seb is the man. But yeah, I think 34 seconds. That's a big old margin to get up. Bit of housekeeping though, as well as we're here. So if you are watching, let us know who you're supporting in the comments of this live stream. It's always good to see what supporters we do have for different people also as well. And I've noticed as well, we're on an odd number for likes. I'd rather not have that. If we could just bump that up just a tad, that'd be great. I mean, you know, I like double digits as well. 10 likes would be a nice thing. So if you haven't already, please make sure you do like the stream as well. It does help the channel out massively. So yeah, 23 people watching. So very welcome to, if you have just joined us today. Second round of the VLN 2.4 hour series here, obviously at the one and only Nordschleife circuit. Seen some great racing. There's some more great racing to come. I've actually just ticked over to the halfway, just over the halfway margin actually. Martin Lusendord from R8G Esports is currently the leader for yourself, as you can see on the screen now. And he's just pulling away almost, he's got a minute of a gap, which is absolutely incredible. And Martin Lusendord is not showing any signs of... Martin Pearson as well has just said, there you go, number 8. Thank you very much, Martin. Appreciate it. So we've actually got 9 now. We've gone back to an odd. If we can just keep going, lads. Keep going, everyone. Just bump it up a little bit. That'd be great. Yeah, so Martin Lusendord is just running away. Like I said, we saw the amount of pace that he has, Ed, is actually quite scary.
Oh, God, yeah. He's very quick indeed. Even with tyres that he started the race on, he's still very quick indeed. He's still, I believe, the fastest man on track, like you mentioned, by some margin. It's great to see those like Martin van Lussenor taking part in these series. He's been absolutely flawless, hasn't he? We've not seen any mistakes whatsoever. Lovely paint job as well, it has to be said. It looked great at night, didn't it? It looked a little bit like the Batmobile, and now look at it, the nice little splashes of colour on the side. Very nice indeed. A lovely use of spec map as well as Simracersworld TV. We love a nice little bit of spec map, a little bit of sheen on these cars. Speaking of spec map, that's a very nice one, isn't it, for Erstein Herfjord, Luminous Racing, who's now right up behind John Roberts for Boosted Motorsport. What is going to happen, though? Are we going to see the move made into the first corner? Again, that Boosted Motorsport car looking very nice as well. There's very lovely liveries on display this afternoon as we're getting into, look at that, the sun rising, the nice orange hues. It makes the paint look even better, if that's even possible.
It does indeed, absolutely. I've just noticed as well, the track's actually getting colder. So it's, I thought it'd obviously be getting warm now the sun's out, but instead it's going the opposite way.
The ambient air is still at 17 degrees.
Okay, I'm sure. I mean, to be fair, even staying the same, I'm quite surprised. I thought it'd be going up at this point, but it doesn't seem to be. So again, Martin Lusendord, I think the not taking tyres was potentially the strategy to go with. But yeah, Erstein Herfjord can't quite make the move past John Roberts at this moment in time. Obviously, he does have to stop once more. So again, not well. He'll actually have to stop twice. More. So Martin Pearson, as well, in the chat saying he's supporting Isaac Barkley. Speaking of Isaac Barkley, whereabouts is he? There is the man currently leading the GT4 category. Sorry, I should say the Porsche Cup category. Again, I mean, obviously, must be a very, very popular car. It must be a very, very quick car as well in the GT4s, because these are the only cars being used in this class. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, like you mentioned, it's a very strong car. I've been doing a little bit of Michelin Pilot Challenge practice, and I was doing a little bit in the McLaren. Not done much, but it does seem that it's not the best car. The best car by quite a long shot, I think, is this Porsche GT4 machine. And well, there's one of the best drivers behind it at the moment, isn't there? Isaac Barkley doing a great job currently in the lead of GT4 class. But what can he do? What can he pull out that gap between himself and Seb Herber? I think he is actually. I think the margin is actually increasing between them. So Seb Herber not seemingly able to have an answer at the moment for Sapphire Sim Sport Isaac Barkley at the moment. Look at that. Look at that through the carousel as well. The sunrise. Oh, beautiful.
I'd tell you what, it is for a game that is, sorry, a sim. Oh, Christ, please don't all leave. For a sim that is really quite old now. It's been going for a long old time. It's a fantastic looking. It's really, really good looking. And yeah, it's very, very immersive. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it, as well? And most sims now, like pretty much all sims, are really starting to get into this. They're getting into the groove that immersion is key. Even if you haven't got, triple screens or VR or something, having immersion and as much immersion as possible is so key. And like dynamic weather, sunset, sunrise, even like lens flares, it all really just sort of adds up. Yeah, I said Isaac Bartley currently leading the way. Martin, he put Martin Pearson said, "Have you seen the back of Barkley's car?" Yes, we have indeed. And we found it very amusing. Could you tell us what font it is, though? We think it's Comic Sans, but if you could give us that confirmation, that'd be lovely.
It's hideous. I love it, and I hate it.
I don't know what to feel. I feel so many things with
so many conflicting things. I don't know how to react. It's just the assault on all of the senses. But look at this. Matthias de Haan in Manatee Racing TCR, leading, of course, the TCR field in what could be final lap before pit stops. And look at this. Polasek, he's not hanging about, is he? He's really close behind. Is he going to try a maneuver? He's coming up to Bravery Corner. I've seen these cars go too wide before, but it's often ended in tears. No, they keep it nice and safe, not wanting to do any risky maneuvers. Meanwhile, in the background, we can see, well, I think there's another GT3 car about to spoil the party. Look at that in the background. Who is that? That could be Ross Yost. It is indeed for Sim Racing Volante Racing. Closing in, making his way through on one car. Looking to the inside of another, but not able to make it just yet. This is going to be him coming through on Miguel Freitas now. Tell you what, the Sim Racing Loft Volante Racing cars do look very nice indeed. Look at this down the inside. Oh, that was a bit of a late send. You can't really make those positions just there at the moment. You need to wait a little while longer. Pick your vote, get the acceleration. There we go. Now you can pass on through the inside, but then he's going to have to slot in behind the likes of Michael Polasek and Matthias de Haan here. Instead, trying to focus on the run out the corner again. Not enough to send any moves down the inside. But then another section, corner after corner again. Just patience is needed through this bit of the track. He might be able to get it on the exit of this right-hander if he puts the power down early enough. There he goes. He's going to have the inside line, make that place done. And then just one more before he's gotten all the way through on these back marker traffic. Up behind TCR leader, Matthias de Haan. Bit of miscommunication, not sure when to get on the throttle. You can hear him get on the throttle and then get out of it and then get on the throttle again, then gets on through. And, well, that was a little bit of a nervous moment, especially when you're on board. You finally get a sense of how difficult it is to judge the slower cars when you're in the faster one. But Ross Yost, he did it well, kept himself out of trouble, didn't contact any of the other cars, so I think you can be quite happy with how that turned out.
I think, yeah. You cannot complain with that, can you, really? That was about as clean as you could get through the TCR field. Yeah, like you've got to be so careful. Like it's worth losing 2, 3, 4 seconds to potentially just to keep the car in one piece. It really, really is. Like that's one of the things that you've always got to have that patience. If you do lose a little bit too much time, then it really does hurt you. Or if you try and make too many mistakes, or try and sort of push some moves on that probably wouldn't be there, especially in the real world, then yeah, as you say, it normally does end in tears. Meanwhile, I actually thought the gap was really quite. I thought the gap had really opened up with Matthias de Haan, but it's just since closed up again. I thought that with Ross Yost getting through the field, that it really actually spread the cars out. But again, going down this back straight, if you're within 2 seconds or something, it just closes all up again, and then you've got to go through it all over again. But the gap, though, it's really coming down. The big run there from Michael Polasek. It's going to be a 3. This is very, very close. The closest we've seen the top 3 for a while. I think about 3/10 separating all of them. Actually, no, I said probably about half, a second, maybe separating now the entire top 4 of that is Mikel Garcia. Again, just dropped off that pack a little bit, but then he catches so quickly. He's very, very good on the brakes. Here we go. Matthias Hand, the first one to jump in the pit. No one else follows him, though. Interesting enough. Well, to be fair, I mean, that's not really interesting enough. He wasn't able to save any fuel. Ed, again, this is what we're talking about. This is now coming into effect. Matthias Hand, he lost out purely because that's a car. What is that there? That was what? That's half of the BMW.
That's half of the Team E-Brit BMW, I believe. And what's happened here? Oh dear, a lot of speed. Oof. Thankfully, the bush was there to censor the hideous crash that we
won't be in this one.
might have seen. Oh dear, no, never mind. Oh, bash! Wow, great camera. You can just see the amount of speed he took into it. As soon as you get onto the grass, you cannot slow it down. There's no friction whatsoever, nothing for you to grip onto to slow the car down. And unfortunately, I think that is James Hall out of this race. He does have fast repairs left to take, but I don't think he's going to really have any positions or anything to properly fight for the remainder of the race. Meanwhile, look at this. TCR fight is kicking off, and maybe it could be smart from Matthias de Haan to come into the pits early on, because he's not going to have to worry about cars battling with him. But then, and he didn't really have any slipstream before, did he? It's not like you could say, oh, if he's not in this fight, he's not within the 5-car train, but he was at the front of the train, so he wouldn't really be gaining anything from sticking with them. Instead, he's pitting earlier. His tires will be cold. He won't be quite having the pace and the speed early on, and instead he's going to be trying to get those tires up to temperature and then have a very quick outlap. Meanwhile, look at this Paul Clist. Oh dear, that's through Hoak, I believe, and that's unfortunately another incident involving a GT3 car dipping wheels off of the circuit, not able to slow it down, not able to control the car, turn it how he wants to. Instead, the momentum sends him straight into the wall.
Not ideal in the slightest. Do you know what I've actually looked as well? I wonder if this has potentially released Michael Polasek, because I know the pace that Michael has got. He's already pulled about 0.6 of a second off Preben Val from what is now P2. So I wonder, Matthias de Haan, he's going to have a very, very quick outlap to try and keep with Michael Polasek when these pit stops come around. I mean, that's a lot of... That's, I think, what, 8 litres, 9 litres of fuel? Probably more than that, actually. Probably about getting on for about 9 litres of fuel per lap that these guys are obviously using. So I wonder... That's actually quite a considerable time amount saved in the pits. So... Michael Polasek, if he can really pull this, or if he can get a good, clean in-lap, I can't imagine they'll be doing any more than another lap after this. This will be the last lap. They'll have to come in this lap. If anyone does, then I feel that may have been a slight error there. Unless someone has saved an incredible amount of fuel, but I doubt that is the case. So these guys will all probably be following single file into the pits. It's really, now is the question, Ed, who was going to be first into the pits this time around? Is it going to be Polasek? Or is it going to be, I mean, it could be Preben Val, it could be Miguel Freitas, it could even be Mikel Garcia. Who knows what can happen?
Yeah, I know that. I know what you mean. Yeah, they're all going to be coming into the pits on this lap, but who's going to be able to have the track position? And maybe it was, like you mentioned, very smart from the anti-racing driver Matthias de Haan to come into the pits when he did, because he doesn't need to worry about these fights for on-track position that would be slowing each other up. Instead, he's just going to be focusing on getting the best outlap he can manage, trying to get the clear air and have a good run and put himself in position to stay out in front and maybe even have a little bit of a gap, a bit of a margin to work with in the final hour of this race. Michael Polasek, though, is putting on a very good charge, isn't he? Keeping himself in front of Preben Val, who is under a little bit of pressure now from Miguel Freitas. Miguel Freitas, who, let's not forget, was in contention for a race victory last time out, but unfortunately had a bit of contact, sent him out, and that was down the Dottinger Straight, wasn't it? That was what sent him out of contention. Miguel, we know how quick he is as well. I've raced with him a few times in the Simracersworld TCR series in its first season, and oh my word, he was very quick indeed. I believe he was, is he one of the drivers, if not the driver to beat? So going to see what he can do this time around. Meanwhile, we're seeing, well, the Simpac Racing blue car of Curtis Newkirk making his way on through, and that's a lot of a bit of a better position on track for him to find these TCRs, isn't it? On a nice flat out bit of the Nordschleife.
Yes, 100%. I think that and the dot you go. Like, if you can pass cars down either of those straights, then I mean, you're laughing. I think at this point you really, really are. Yeah. So I think, to be honest, when you're actually when you're going through it, I think this is what we're talking about again. It's just oh, actually, we just got someone just popped into the chat. This is Mr. James Hall. So goes, I'm James Hall, car number 68. Just had a big one and had to tow. Not been my best day, so crack on. We're back out in a few minutes, loving the broadcast. Well, James, thank you very much. Really glad you're enjoying the broadcast. Honestly, head down on anything can happen. I mean, absolutely anything can happen. No, it's not been your day today, but there's always another time. There's always next time. So, yeah, honestly, crack on. You'll be absolutely fine. Again, it's good practice as well. Good things to learn from. So, but glad you're going to get back out on track. It's what we like to see as well. We don't like any DNFs. So getting people in and out on track as much as possible, that's obviously fantastic to see. Martin van Luzendord is now in the pits yet again for his second and possibly final. Yeah, this should be his final stop. He's going to be coming out with about 1 hour and 32 minutes. Depends if he does take tyres. He might still not take tyres. I mean, who knows? I think, to be fair, with how much that Martin van Luzendord is having to push, I mean, to be fair, I don't see if he'll take tyres. Probably doesn't need to. Actually, no, to be fair, he might even just take tyres just to get some fresh rubber on. I really, really don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. Down again into the TCR category. The fight is where it's at. Isaac Barkley, though, has just put in a PB. Just put in the fastest lap of that class. 8 minute 52 seconds. 0.831 was his last lap time. He's pulling a little bit on Sebastian Herbera. And that gap is still about 37 seconds. So, and they pitted, bear in mind, they pitted both at the same time. So even with that small, well, I say that relatively large incident with when Isaac Bartley had that spin, the gap still, I mean, it's gone up now. 38 seconds is the gap. So I think Sebastian Herbera, yeah, he's going to have he's got to really pull something out of the bag for this last hour. Yeah,
absolutely. Martin van Luzendord, though, coming on out of the pits now, and I think he may have taken tyres at that stop, so he's got a margin up in front. Martin van Rooijek just behind as well, has just gone through actually into second place now, as Pim Bao has taken over the car from, I believe that was Rob Tyson in the I think it's the Ferry Monster Esports car. I believe, at least.
No, that is indeed. You are correct. Yes, Pim Bao. He is, as you say, taking the Ferry Monster Esports car, the number 3. So is he going to... What's the pace? I mean, we had some really, really good pace. It's, again, the thing with these guys is they're all just so close. Like, they're all just incredibly, incredibly close in terms of pace. Now, again, it gets exaggerated a little bit more. Again, purely because we've just got... actually, interestingly enough, look at the gap now. I know Martin Rejvik has got to make one more pit stop, but again, this just goes to show the length of time that Martin Luzendord pulled out, that he's done his pit stop, and he's still 1.8 seconds in front of Martin Rejvik. So, I mean, you can't argue with the pace there. We've actually got a couple of replays also to look up. This is Anton Dupin. That's had a small moment, one of the TCR drivers. Where is this going to be? This is from Flemish Simsport Green Hell. To be fair, that's not the Green Hell that he wants to see, though. But small excursion, he's back out on track. I'm sure that was interesting for him. But yeah, here we go. I think all of the cars, look, again, straight for on the bounce. All of these cars for the TCRs, look at it's just one big train. It's just one big Audi TCR car again. And they're all coming into the pits. More importantly, where's Matthias Dehan? Where is he going to be pulling? Where is he? 59 seconds back. So I wonder, did you know as well? I think it might actually be worth potentially jumping on board with Matthias de Haan, because there he is coming down the Dottinger now. Oh, this is going to be close. This is going to be close, isn't it, Ed? I'm intrigued to see what happens here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be ever so close indeed. It's going to be touch and go, and I don't know which way to call it as he's going to go down the Dottinger straight now. Going through. Oh, I'm not sure which way it's going to go. As actually, have we seen changes? Actually, I think we're seeing changes up in front.
We could have very well seen some change up in front. Let's just have a look. What's going to happen here, though? Because Matthias de Haan, where's he actually pulling out? No, Matthias de Haan, he's just coming down the start-finish line now, so he's jumped what seems to be pretty much everyone else. Bar, look at that. He has just sailed ahead of everyone else, bar Mikel Garcia. Mikel Garcia's got a 6-second gap. So, well, I mean, yeah, that's something that cannot really be... that's something that can't be argued with. So Mikel Garcia has just managed to save so much more fuel than everyone else. Look, you've got Val, Peacock and Freitas. They're all at pit exit now. Surely that can't be. Tyres. No, because even then...
No, if it was tyres, he wouldn't be able to make it to the end of the race.
It can't be.
I've driven these TCI cars before in endurance racing, and there's no way you can make a double stop work in these TCRs. You go down to 0% tread, and then you get your iRacing spotter shouting at you, and you get the meatball flag.
How has he done it? How has that actually happened? Because, yeah, Mikel Garcia, I mean, yeah, his pit stop was almost, 30 seconds more. 30 seconds less than everyone else. Maybe he hasn't taken tyres, because 30 seconds surely is the gap of tyres. Would it be around that sort of margin, would you say, Ed?
It is, yeah. 30 seconds is that margin for tyres, but I don't... That's sad. That'd be insane if he's not taken tyres.
It's brave.
There's a very fine line, isn't there, between bravery and foolishness, I think, in these sorts of situations.
True. Very true. I really don't know. I don't know what to make of this. This has just thrown a spanner in the works massively. I mean, what's the gap between himself and Matthias de Haan? Gap is 6 seconds still. It's not already come down. Which, again, I really don't know. Maybe he just forgot to fuel. I mean, maybe he only put in a bit less. Well, put in too little fuel. He's going to need to make another pit stop. We're really in the dark at this point. So yeah, Martin Pearson, Garcia and de Haan stops with 30 seconds less, therefore no tyres. I mean, yeah, to be fair, yeah, you're right. Matthias de Haan, he's obviously jumped everyone else as well, because that gap is 30 seconds as well between himself and Prev and Val. But then, from what Ed was saying as well, obviously he's driven these TCR cars a lot more than me. That might not work. I'm actually quite astounded.
It might be closer because it's not really the full time, is it? It's going to be, what, about just under an hour left to go. So it might be able to work out. I don't know, though. It's going to be...
I really don't know. I really don't actually know. I think we may have lost Ed.
Oh, dear.
Oh, no,
Am I
Ed,
here?
no, we're there. We're there.
Oh, dear, my internet's been having a slight few moments, but...
Oh, I think we may be... Is Ed there? Are you still there? I'm sure he'll be back in a second. Yeah, I think we'll hear from Ed back in a few moments' time. But yeah, I really sort of I'm at loss for words. I think at this point, until we really get until we get towards the end of the race, we're just not going to know what's actually going to happen. But yeah, interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is very interesting indeed. But I mean, it's one of these moments, isn't it, where you don't really know how it's going to happen until you get into, say, like the final few laps, because the TCRs, they're going to give us entertaining all the way till the end, aren't they? As they often tend to do. But as well, we've got that question in GT4 as well. What's Sepp Herber and Isaac Barkley going to be able to manage? And then the difference in strategy for, well, I was going to say the GT3s, but they're just BMW. So in the BMW class.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where once the last pit stops really go through, then I think we'll obviously have that idea then. But yeah, Martin Pearson saying that he drove them last year. It's probably a similar thing to you, Ed. He said he drove them last year and he tried to do a stint plus 30 minutes and he said it was definitely not a good idea. So I am intrigued. I'm actually also intrigued with the fact that Matthias de Haan, the gap has come down 4 seconds. So it's now down to just under 3 seconds. There is Matthias de Haan there, as he's just being passed, or potentially being passed by Ivor Laubscher in the brightly coloured Positively Racing vehicle. I still can't go over the front of where that BM looks. It's ghastly. But yeah, lots of question marks. And I tell you what, Ed, I think what we're going to do, try and, while we ponder on that, we're going to take a quick break so we can also allow you to ponder on that yourselves. Let us know what your different theories are and what's going to happen towards the end of this race, because I think at the moment we have absolutely no idea. So we'll be back in a few moments. Make sure you do not go anywhere. We're going to leave you with an onboard shot of, who should we have, Ed? Who do you fancy?
Let's have a look. I want to have a look at Matthias de Haan on board with the Manatee Racing TCR car.
Matthias de Haan. There we go. So, brilliant. There is your onboard shot there. So we'll be back in a few moments' time, everyone. Make sure you do not go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to the Simracersworld VLN 2.4 hour series, round 2, here at, obviously, the one and only Nordschleife. If you have just tuned in, my name is Dan Handover, and joining me in the commentary box, and has been for the first half of this race, for the first two-thirds of this race, is Mr. Ed May. Ed, how has the racing been for you? Because I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, it's been great. I was, like you mentioned, here for the first two-thirds or so, and you stuck with me for the next third as we come to what's hopefully going to be the exciting conclusion to this race. Matista Hayne closing in now on Miguel Garcia, but it's even closer, isn't it, between Ollie Peacock and Preben Wahl. This is for the podium in TCR. Third place, Ollie Peacock, we're seeing now on the T23 race coaching by FSR car. Closing in, isn't he, as they make their way. Oh, I thought we were going to see him look to the inside under the brakes, but no, nothing doing there. They make their way down through Foxholm now, the fastest bit of the track for these TCR cars, I believe. What speed do they get up to down here? Let's see if we can pull up quickly. Look at that, about 240 or so kilometers an hour. Very quick indeed as they make their way down. That's like the same speed that the GT3s make in a straight line.
It's quick, isn't it? I mean, it's very, very quick in a TCR car. That's a 250k, 40, 250ks. Martin van Luzendorp, you can just see on top of the timing tower, has just done an 8-minute 7.102. So he's definitely not hanging about, even though he's got what is, I mean, a massive gap. The gap is going to be wild. You actually got Martin van Reivik, who's now just pulled into the pits for his second pit stop and also his final pit stop, so he won't be needing to do any more. That is him done and dusted in terms of pit stops. Is he going to change drivers, or is he going to be doing a solo venture? Not 100% sure. We're going to find out in a moment if the driver swaps and if his name does change. Yeah, the moment of the battle, this is indeed between Ollie Peacock and Preben Wahl. Martin Revitt, I think he's actually staying out himself. Yep, so he's going to be doing a solo venture for this round. Interesting, I was having a look at the gap. So between the Team IRNL cars, we've obviously got, this is Pascal Tigelaar, and we've got Sander Vrailing. Just behind 0.8 of a second is the gap behind these two. You can just see just going in and out of shot there for a brief moment, and there again. It's close, actually. We haven't really seen much movement on these two, really, Ed, have we? So I wonder, again, team tactics potentially playing involved, because we're not even seeing the gap really start to close. Anyway, it's just hovering around that sort of like 8-9 mark, potentially a second as well. And it's been like that for a while. So are we seeing just team wars just like, chill out, guys, take it easy, it's a long old way to go?
I don't even think it's necessarily something that you'd need team orders for. I think even if they were in opposite teams, they'd probably be nice and chilled and relaxed, because they are quite evenly matched in terms of pace. It's just Sander Vrailing now behind is going to be getting the slipstream, isn't he? He's going to be able to get a little bit of fuel saving under his belt, and that's going to allow them both to try and extend their stint. I think they've already gone a lap longer than their main competitor, wasn't it, for second place, Martin van Reivik, who has already been in and out of the pits so far this race. So I think we'll be seeing the two Team IRNL, the two Team iRacing Netherlands cars making their way into the pits come the end of this lap. Meanwhile, look at this. Ollie Peacock still close, isn't he, to Preben Wahl up in front. Close margins, as I believe the gap has closed down to under 1.5 seconds for our TCR lead. Miguel Garcia's lead has been eaten up by Matista Hayne, and I think the difference in strategy might be coming into effect here. Look at this, you can see the rear shot definitely closer, isn't he, Matista Hayne, to the rear of the Full Send Racing 285 machine. And I think it's just the tyres, they just aren't working for Miguel Garcia at this point in time. I don't seem to think he's able to have the same amount of pace, same amount of grip that Messias has, because look, the gap's closing even more now.
I know, it's really closed down. It's showing no signs of stopping. It's been not as quick as I first sort of anticipated. So again, as well as if Mikael Garcia is managing these tyres, he's doing a very, very good job indeed. Because yeah, that gap is 34 seconds, and it's not come down really at all between himself and Preben Val. So, if I'm honest, I think this could have been the choice to go, unless these tyres absolutely fall off a cliff.
I was about to say these TCRs, there is a point where they have a cliff.
Right.
And all of a sudden, your lap times go down the toilet, shall we say. They become absolute dog water, and it's not fun to drive. But it's about managing. And if Mikael has had this knowledge early on, he knew that this was the strategy to try and get a good result, to look after the tyres and not take a pit stop, or at least to not change tyres up the pit stop. He's going to be able to have looked after him from the beginning. He had the slipstream in front, which meant he's been able to back it off into the corners, able to sacrifice a few tenths here and there through the corners. Close up, though, with the straight line speed, so those differences are minimised or even nullified completely. And now, while he might not be in contention for the race victory, because of the sheer pace that we're seeing from Matthias de Hain, it looks like a podium could well be on the cards. Especially as well if he's passed by Matthias de Hain, but sticks with him with the slipstream.
Absolutely, yes. Sorry, I've just been get distracted. Yes, so in terms of I mean 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second now. Yeah, Mikael Garcia, he's got some pace, isn't he? I think we know he's got pace, and there's probably no pressure for him to really overtake at this moment in time, if anything, because if he's not taking tyres either, he needs to save these tyres as well, doesn't he? Let's be honest. Because the pit stop that both these guys had was so much quicker than everyone else, it wouldn't be... it's almost... I think, to be fair, the more I think about it, it's almost a guarantee that there was no tyres change. So, I mean, yeah, if he can just save the fuel and just hassle Mikael Garcia and really put the pressure on him to use up his tyres, then... yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very close fight to the end. Meanwhile, again, Ollie Peacock and Miguel Freitas... sorry, this is Preben Val even. Apologies. The battle is still going on down into the GP layout for another round. And again, you've got a bit of... I always think as well, Ed, like, the GP loop of the Nordschleife is a bit... even though it's a relatively technical part of the track, especially with the infield arena... you've still got this is almost like a bit of breathing room, because it's a track that everyone drives a lot more. You've got a lot more runoff. It's just a lot safer. So I always find that this, you know, even though there's no real sort of large straights down there, it's always a bit of a respite, isn't it? Because you've just got, it gives you a chance to prepare yourself for obviously the Nordschleife section. I don't know about you. Oh, Ollie Peacock going very, very sideways there. Manages to keep it all in check again. Boot full of power. Off he goes, and done and dusted. But yeah, not ideal there. But he manages to keep it all in check. But that has dropped him 0.6 of a second with that one small little mistake. And it's actually put him ever into the clutches of Miguel Freitas.
Yeah, exactly. It's the best way in these TCR cars to counter a fistful of oversteers with an absolute shed load of sort of right foot to the floor, isn't it? Just power down, power out of it, and get up and moving. The only thing that Ollie Peacock's really lost is maybe a little bit of rubber on his tyres and a couple of tenths. But with the slipstream, that is going to be closed up almost certainly, isn't it? Meanwhile, look at this. It's close still between de Hain and Garcia. Garcia holds on, doesn't he, for a little while longer. But for me, I think it's only a matter of time before we see the likes of de Hain again. Ollie Peacock, he seems to be struggling, doesn't he, with the tyres in this state. He's dropping back now to outside of that 1 second margin. Just not quite got the grip. And is this allowing, let's have a look at the lap times. I think it is potentially allowing Miguel Freitas to close in behind, and then all of a sudden we could be seeing a three-way fight for third place.
I know, this is what I was thinking about it, because Miguel Freitas, yeah, the gap has come down. It's about a second. Yeah, so it's come about 0.6 of a second. Meanwhile, what's going to happen here? I think is Matthias Dan? He's not hanging about, is he? He wants his position sooner rather than later. So Mikael Garcia is having to just keep it all under control at the moment. He's just putting in his car. To be fair, he can't. It's very hard to defend in that situation. You got the tale of it's sort of double-edged sword, really. You can't really defend going through, especially the fast left-handers and the really fast section, because it just compromises you so heavily for the subsequent corners. You've almost just got to let it happen, I suppose, to a certain extent. And look at that, Martin van Loosendorp puts another PB on the timesheets.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to mention, Matt van Loosendorp sets the first lap of the race, but I think I'm expecting Pascal Tigelaar and Sander Freiling, both Team iRacing Netherlands cars, to make their way into the pits. And if that is the case, then it was just going to be a matter of where is Martin van Rooijvik? That's the big question of where will he be coming out? Will he be coming out third or second? It's very difficult to tell. So we're going to see those cars. I'd expect them to come into the pits. And yes, I think they both are now on pit entry. I say that they're not appearing on our overlayers in pit entry, even though they are on my timing screens.
Yeah, so I think I'm just having a look. Unfortunately, we've had a small issue with the stream. It seems to have frozen. So I do apologise, everyone. We are going to get that back. Oh no! And as I say that, as if I've had it, thank you very much, iRacing, and we sorted ourselves out. Lovely stuff.
Rooijvik is up into second place now.
Yes, he is indeed. You're very, very true. Yes, Martin Rooijvik, he now comes up. He's in second place, having a couple of issues at the moment, everyone, with I think there's again internet troubles that are plaguing them, sometimes we see this with some of the it could be varying sort of places, so hopefully we're going to get that back for you as soon as possible, but at this moment in time we have got as we can see, we've got the cars on track. You can see the timing towers, everything is there, the timing tower is ticking down, but we've got no cars out on track. So I do apologise, but we'll have to do a bit of radio commentary at the moment until we can start. I don't know how it is on your end.
No, I can see a couple of cars popping in and out here on the thing. I think it might be iRacing's booted you out of the server. I can actually see it's disconnected you for some reason. I'm not sure why it's done that, but iRacing is having a bit of a mare. So we might have a technical pause here and try and bring you back in to the action very shortly indeed. If I can try and do some radio comms if you like, Dan, and try and talk through everything that's going out on track.
Yeah, we can still have a chat, can't we? Like, I'm just going to, like I said, do apologise everyone, but we will be back in but a few moments' time. So, yeah, I mean, to be fair, we'll have a bit of a chat. Like, I suppose in terms of, it's one of the main things I want to ask is, do you know what? Actually, I'm intrigued to see. What do you think of the TTRs? Like, what's the talking? Or what's the main sort of point, and why are the TTR cars so popular? Is it just because it's unlike anything else in iRacing? It's the front wheel drive. Like, what's so popular about it?
I think it's because they have relatively low power compared to a lot of classes, and those provide great racing. I'll admit it's not necessarily the fastest cars that bring the most excitement. I remember doing some fun races with my teammates back a little while ago now, and we were racing in the Solstice, and oh my word, for racing Solstice is probably one of the most fun cars you can do for a series. It's great fun, Dan, and I don't know if you've ever thought of doing something in the Solstice, but I'd highly recommend it, even though it's a bit of a slow and a bit of a boat. Oh my word, it is great fun to drive and great fun with Astros as well. Of course, it's the same with the Jetters as well. They're a similar breed to this car. I believe they're front wheel drive, but horribly diesel powered and a bit of a barge. But they're great fun to watch as well. If you follow one of our commentators, one of our broadcasters here on Simracersworld TV, Chaz Draycott, he runs the what is it called? The British boring cars, and they're great fun to watch as well, because you wouldn't expect those sort of slow old Jetters to provide such exciting racing, but they do. They're really great fun to watch and to see them pound around the circuit. So I think it's just the nature of the car that provides great racing, and the fact that they don't use all the downforce. They don't really get affected by following close to one another. It's a lot more down to mechanical grip. It's just really fun to see them all have nice, good time of things. But like I was saying, Ollie Peacock is still close behind Preben Vol, not making any positions just yet. Instead, seems quite content to stay behind. Same as well with, actually, I think we might have had a change. Yes, we have. We've seen Matthias Tehane and Miguel Garcia, and that was, I believe, going down the straight into the Bravery corner. So that was through Bergwerk. The position changed hands. Says to Hayne now up into the lead of the race.
I think, to be fair as well, yes, we're actually just loading back in. So I do apologise. Thank you everyone for your patience while we get this sorted. But we'll be back in a few moments' time, all being well. Yeah, do you know what? I'm actually quite. I think now, like moving forward, I think GT racing is still so popular. What I'd like to see, actually, do you know what? What I'd like to see is maybe some more TCR cars to be put in. I heard there was a rumor. I don't know how true that rumor is, Ed. I don't know about yourself, but yeah, I heard that there was potentially more TCR cars being put in, or World Touring cars, like the Hyundai maybe or something. I think that would really bring a lot. I don't know if I'd probably race the cars maybe more if there were other options available. I don't know, but yeah, I think they're onto something good here with the TCR cars, and it sort of follows the whole GT style of racing. You know, a little bit more contact is acceptable, and contact is, it's not like Formula cars. You touch each other and that's it. All cars both implode on each other. You've got some sort of leeway, and that just promotes, I think, good racing as well. It promotes so close racing because you've almost got that little bit of a barrier. But yeah, I wonder, what's your thoughts? Do you reckon that they're going to be putting some more TCR cars in? I hope they do.
I hope they do. Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe if you get a rear wheel drive TCR car, that might shake the order up a little bit. I know these are very close with BMW. We might be able to see something in that vein as well. But like I mentioned, there was a change in the TCR class, and that put Tyster Hayne up in front of Miguel Garcia, and that was 2 wheels off the grass coming out of Berwick side by side all the way up through into every corner, where I think we just saw Garcia just concede the position, and I think it's going to stay that way for the moment because the Mantia Racing TCR car does look very strong indeed.
I'm hoping to see this action in a few months. We're at 90% now. This is the road problem with Nurburgring. If it was any other track, it wouldn't be too much of an issue, even Le Mans. But it's just Nurburgring. It takes years to load sometimes.
Honestly, yeah, it's a pain, isn't it? That's why I'm lucky I've got mine on an M2 drive. So I can just boot it up. I've already been kicked out of, I will admit, my internet's not been great, and I have been kicked out of the server a couple of times already, so I've had to quickly load in and pretend I know what I'm talking about when you answer questions. But it's been really exciting, isn't it? Just to see all of the action out on track, even if it's not on the screens, but to follow everything going on. It's been brilliant for sure. And I mean, the TCRs have been certainly something as well. I've been following the battle as well for third place. Preben Val's still leading that one. And let us know when you get in, Dan, because tell you what, we might be seeing Ollie Peacock closing in very shortly. He's just been making a few mistakes here and there, Ollie Peacock. He doesn't quite have the same sort of pace and consistency we saw him have earlier. Preben Val, though, he's doing a great job, currently up in third position in the Luminous Racing car. And I do love that livery. It's sort of the nice use of the spec map, the matte finish, and then it's not even matte, it's more of like a weird satin sort of black, and then obviously the standout sort of chrome shiny hexagons and the chrome almost gold effect on it. Oh, lovely, lovely livery.
Are you okay? Do you need a moment?
I might do, yeah. I might need a little bit of, after the race, I'll save the replay and just watch Preben Val just go around the track. Oh, especially with the sun rising. Oh, beautiful.
Dear. Well, do you know what? I think we do have. I am all back up and ready to go, I think. Do you know what? So, we are going to... like I said, do apologise, everyone. Thank you very much for your patience while we get everything sorted and get everything back up and running. So we've got 20 people watching, so there you go. 20 people watching the Simracersworld 2.4 series radio broadcast, which has been quite... It's actually pretty difficult to commentate as radio, isn't it? As I've just noticed. But let's bring everything back now, and here we are. This is straight into the battle between Matthias de Haan and Mikel Garcia. So that move was made, done and dusted. And we've actually got quite a lot. I think this could have been potentially a... I think we're going to... I'm just looking through, I think... the software that we use to record, we use an SDK. I think it's had a little bit of a moment when it booted me out because it's saying that everyone crashed. And I can probably, judging by the fact we've got all cars still out on track, that's not the case. But yeah, so hopefully we're going to be everything's going to sort itself out. We're going to be properly back up and running. But yeah, Prep and Val, just sort of looking at you are right. It is Prep and Val, it's 0.7 of a second, isn't it? But as we know, that isn't a lot, is it? That can easily come down, and I'm sure it will be coming down, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm expecting that to close on in. You know, I think Pim Bao now goes up ahead of Pascal Tigelaar. So there's been changes out on track for position. Basically, everywhere we've been looking, there's been a little bit of action here, there, and everywhere. Look at this, though. You're seeing this is Pim Bao now in the Very Monster Esports car. And when did he make the move on Pascal Tigelaar? Because I think Pascal and Sander Vreeland came out very close to one another in 3rd and 4th place. It might have just been a small mistake. I can't quite see what happened between the pair of them, if I'm honest. I don't know if you've got that on your event, viewer.
I haven't, unfortunately, no. So not entirely sure what... Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened there, to be perfectly honest. I think I was just loading in as it all sort of... As all that kicked off. Mikel Garcia, though, we have got a replay, so it says he's gone off track. So what happens here? No, just 2 wheels on the grass, and off he goes. So, to be fair, nothing of major note.
I've been able to have a little bit of a look back at what happened, and it was actually, I believe it was coming through Brunchen, the sort of the left-hander as they make their way through Flansgarten. And it was very close. There was a little bit of a moment there where Pascal Tigelaar got off onto the grass, almost lost control of the car, but collected it. And it was side by side between Pim Bao and Pascal for a little while, but they managed to make it stick in the end. It was heart and mouth stuff, though, for both drivers, I think. Great to see them get through that nice and safely. And I think now we're all up to date and we can put an end to the radio commentary.
Yes, we can indeed. Like I said, we are absolutely all back up and running. Oh, hello. We've got actually 2 really close battles between Mikel Garcia, Matthias Dehaan, and the battle between Preben Val and Ollie Peacock is still very, very close. So both of these 2 are really sort of like working forward and trying to... It's tricky. It's tricky again because they obviously, both these drivers have got pace. It's getting past them. You know, that's the tricky thing. It's getting past the person within the same class, especially with the TCRs around Nordschleife. And it's just, you've got to be careful. And you've got to pick your moves so well. And really, as well, look at that. We've only got 14 minutes left to go, though. So 14 minutes left to go. That's not too long. So you've almost got to be having what we saw again last time out. We saw moves being made on the last time down Tokyo Ho on the last lap. And I feel that if Ollie Peacock and Mikel Garcia can both stay where they are now, respectively, to the people in front of them, I think this will be easy done-dusted moves for both of them. I can't see how they could not make the move stick, to be perfectly honest, because they're just far enough back. This is only one of the problems is sometimes you can actually be too close to the car in front and you pull out. I think we saw that with the Team IRNL white car, or one of the Team IRNL cars, and I believe it was Martin Verovic as well. Is the battle, it was almost a bit whoever's behind was too close to the car in front, made the move, but then the slipstream happened and the move was made straight back. So that's tactics full. That's got to be, you got to be tactful as well, even with that sort of stuff, Ed. It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, you're bang on the money there. There's so many things to consider in these situations in terms of how they race with one another. But I'll tell you what, great job from Miguel Garcia to stay in second place. He's right up behind Thijs de Haan. I don't know if he has the pace through the corners, but he's able to keep close enough, isn't he, to use the slipstream to his advantage. And he's closing down. He's happy to stay behind. Is he going to go for the move, though? Going through the dot straight into Tigart? No, very clearly lifting off of the throttle, not wanting to do anything too risky. Instead, quite happy to fight in the latter stages of the race. Not just yet, as let's have a look how long is left in the race. Just about 13 minutes to go. I think we could be having a couple more laps. It depends, of course, where our leaders are out on circuit. Just going to follow Mikel Garcia a little while longer. Does he get a good run out of the final corner? No. So I don't think he's going to be putting any pressure on Matthias de Haan into the first corner. This is Miguel Freitas just behind. He's actually lost a bit of time now to Ollie Peacock and Preben Val, who is now, look at that, Ollie Peacock sweeps his way around the outside of Preben into Tiergarten, staying ahead, blinking in and out. That's slightly concerning for the Luminous Racing driver, but doesn't seem to be too severe. Just a small blink in and out, and then he's back up and running. So now we've got a new change in position for P3, P17 overall. And this is going to be really exciting to see if Preben can now hold on, keep behind, and maybe do a fight back himself. But where is... Oh, look at this. This is actually de Haan very close between himself and Mikel Garcia. I don't think Mikel is going to try and send any moves, though. I don't think he wants to be the car in front. He wants to be the one behind on the final lap down the Dottinger Straight.
I think you've got to be there realistically. You want to be the car behind. If you're the car in front, you're a sitting duck. I think maybe Ollie Peacock may have actually moved and may have made his move too early. Unless he can pull that gap. I mean, the gap is only 0.4 of a second. That's not enough. You've got to be 2 seconds at least. Or at least 1.5 seconds, potentially even 2 seconds clear of the car behind you to not really have the draft affect you down the Dottinger hose. So, yeah, if I'm honest, I think Ollie Peacock may have made his move a little bit too early. I could very well be wrong. I have been wrong before. I'm sure I'll be wrong again. And I do hope that Ollie Peacock does prove me wrong. But at the same time, I think Preben Val is the man who's currently on... He's behind on track, but I think he's ahead of the game when it comes to these final stages and these closing stages of this race. Matthias de Haan, though, he's pulled out a bit of a gap from just having a look half a second. Again, the sort of Constantine is up, and then it gets bigger, it gets smaller, and gap really chop and change. Any point of which you can get... but in credit to Mikel Garcia, he's really putting a lot of pressure on de Haan. I think... if I'm honest, I think, again, Mikel Garcia, if he can just keep behind him for the remainder of this race, going down that last... I don't see what Matthias de Haan can do, if I'm honest, personally. Yeah,
exactly. I don't know if Matthias de Haan really have any answers, but it's down now to Mikel Garcia. It's down to his tyres, isn't it? Because I think he might be starting to feel the effects now. I don't think he's going to be at the cliff just yet. But if he hasn't taken tyres, then he's going to be very close, isn't he, towards the end? I'm not sure he's going to be able to manage it. I'm just trying to have a little bit of a look, see where all the other fights are, because it's still, I think, relatively close between Sander Vreeling and Pim Bauer. I think Pim Bauer is actually closing in on the other iRacing Netherlands car. It's about 2 seconds. The gap closing down each and every lap on what we're going to be seeing at that phase in the race as well. Meanwhile, as well, I think actually you might be able to go to a driver we haven't seen too much. Ryan Walker in the Nomad VLN car, currently 8th in TCR class, because I think he's in a battle with Anton Dupin.
Anton Dupin, let us have a look. I cannot find him for the life of me. Yes, I can. Tell a lie. There is Anton Dupin.
It's closing in. It's about 1 second, and then even further behind, you can see there's another car about 1 second behind. They're all within the slipstream. This could be a fight that's going to close in at the end of the race as well.
Yes, this is Anton Dupin, Ryan Walker, and Øystein Herfjord. So obviously a person that we didn't really see. That early start really sort of hurt him. That early pit stop really did hurt him, as he has indeed made his second pit stop. Obviously everyone else has made the one and only pit stop that they need. So Øystein Herfjord is... To be fair, he's actually really motoring along. I mean, wow, he is motoring along. Looking at the gap now, it's 0.7 of a second. He's just closed that gap up from the space that we've been talking about him, about 3 or 4 tenths of a second. So he another 1/10 just there as well. So man is absolutely on a mission at the moment. Bottom right hand corner of your screen, you can see the battle box. So it's now down another 1/10. That's a back marker. No, it's a GT3 car. That could be potentially... I don't actually know.
It might be Van Roivik. I think that could be Martin Van Roivik in the Simpact car. It's one of the Simpact machines at the very least.
You are indeed, yes, you are indeed
And
correct.
I think it is, yes, Martin van Rooijek making his way through TCR traffic for, I believe, the second time this race. Making his way, and that's actually closed down the gap, hasn't it, between Ryan Walker and Øystein Herfjord. Luminous racing car. We did see at the start of the race, he put it on pole position. He put it right up there, didn't I? I think he was on pole position, but he misjudged his fuel at the start. I think he had the qualifying set up, and he was, well, just like a sitting duck, wasn't he? He wasn't able to use that to his advantage. I think he's had to take a second pit stop since then, and now Øystein Herfjord. Look at that. He's looking, isn't he? He's looking to try and get past Ryan Walker. Ryan's not having any of it, though, is he? He's trying to hold off, trying to stay in front, keep himself nice and tidy up ahead. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to be able to hold off for much longer. The pace from Øystein is looking very strong indeed. And, well, we're going to see him get a good exit out of this corner. I think this is where we might see the move being made. He's going to look to the inside at a gap that is there. Is it there? I'm not sure, but he's going to try and make it there nonetheless. Side by side they go. Into the left-hander, a bit of a squeeze. I was worried there was going to be contact there. Still two abreast. And then finally, Øystein makes it stick. Great stuff, though. Great action there out on the circuit. Brilliant overtake from Øystein Herfjord.
That was a great move. Great move. Calculated. I mean, to be fair, it took a little bit of time. Probably longer than I think Øystein would have wanted it to. But yeah, Herfjord does make that move on Ryan Walker. First time in this series for Ryan for the Nomad VLN TCR car. Now the man in his sight is Anton Dupin. It was 3.6 tenths of a second. It's now 2.9 seconds. So this is the back. This gap is closing down El Rapido. So let's obviously we're going to keep an eye on this because it is really going to come. He's already pulled a second off of Ryan Walker. So I mean, yeah, pole position of people ahead of people like Matthias de Haan, Mikael Garcia, Ollie Peacock, like quick guys in TCR cars. So yeah, this has been a very good as good a recovery drive as possibly could be, I think. So I think P7 is on the cards. I think P7 is on the cards for him.
Absolutely, yeah. I think P7 is definitely doable for Øystein. He's closing in to Anton Dupin up in front. However, it depends, doesn't it, where Martin van Loozenhoorn is out on circuit, because I think we're going to have one more lap after this. Yeah, we can see him now. He's just gone through Flansgarten there. A bit of the jump off on the circuit. Yep, we've definitely got, I think, one extra lap here this evening as they make their way through the Beloff S's. Martin van Loozenhoorn, he's looked impervious all race long. He's got a 1 minute 26 second margin. Maybe even come the end of this race, it could be 1.5 minutes clear of his nearest competitor, Martin van Rooijek, who let's just say Martin, he's not had both Martins, to be fair, both Martin van Rooijek and Martin van Loozenhoorn. They've both had very good races. It's just that van Loozenhoorn, he's been on another level, hasn't he?
Oh, he has, absolutely. He has, absolutely. You cannot deny it at all. Matthias de Haan has had a bit of an off here. Where is this? Ooh, that was no time lost there at all, I don't think. Maybe a tenth or two. But that goes to show, doesn't it? That goes to show that Mikael Garcia is putting him under such an immense amount of pressure that now we're starting to see all these... I mean, to be fair, that's the first mistake that I've pretty much seen from Matthias de Haan all race. But actually,
I think we've seen a change, though.
Yes, the move has been made. The move is still being made, I should say, actually. So what's going to happen here? So this is the move that we wanted to see.
Heat.
It is a dead heat. Is it what's going to happen? These guys are not backing out. They're going to want to go still side by side. I think it is going to be Mikael Garcia. No, it's not actually. It's Matthias de Haan that's still out in the lead.
And look in the background, Van Loozenhoorn. He's been seeing this going on. He's been watching all these cars fighting for a position. He's now going to come ahead of them. So now we've had the GT3 class leader like the TCRs twice this race, such as just his sheer speed and pace. And now look at this. He knows it's the final lap. Both these drivers have seen the race leader come by. They know how much time is left on the clock. This is the final lap. And, well, Thijs de Haan, he's not hanging about, is he? He's trying to keep himself in front. But Mikael Garcia, What a performance it is by him. He's really turning on the pace now, closing down. And, well, I'm going to be expecting him to see what he can manage at this point in the race. Look at this. Very close indeed. And I'm not sure which way to call it. We already saw Matthias Dehaney tried the move early, didn't he? I don't think he was backing out. I don't think he was trying to be nice and kind. It was a true fight between the pair of them going through Tiergarten, but Matthias Dehaney did have a decent margin going onto the Dottinger Straight. It has to be said, he had about 7/10, 6/10 of a second clear. And then as they went side by side, it was enough of a margin. The speed difference wasn't too much to prevent Matthias from holding on to that place, so that he knows what gap he needs to stay in front. But it's all about if he can pull that gap, or if Mikel Garcia is closing down and going to try and keep within contention. Meanwhile, we're seeing now Pimbao, he has closed down to Sander Vrailing, and this is for the podium places. He's already going to go for the move right away. He's not hanging about whatsoever. Side by side through Tiergarten. Oh, I was worried we were going to see him come across the nose of the iRacing Netherlands white car, but no, he was able to judge it to perfection. Great driving between the pair of them, but look at that, a poor exit out of the final corner. He looks to the right, and then he has to go to the left, covered off nicely by Pimbao, and now as they make their way, he's looking to the inside, trying to sell a bit of a dummy maneuver. Is there enough of a room on the inside? He's going to go for it nonetheless. Two abreast through the first corner into the second corner. He's going to have the outside line, and he's going to have to back out of that move.
Wow, I mean, to be fair, that was action, isn't it, if we ever saw it? So, yeah, we've got battles now all kicking off again. We're now seeing it with this last lap now getting underway. All of the battles, people know that there is only one lap left to go, and now they're really starting to get the hammer down. They want these positions, they want these moves. Matthias Dehan, so this is the battle, obviously, in the GT3 class. At the moment, though, Isaac Barkley, again, touchwood, he hasn't got too long to go, and then he'll be taking the class, he's got, like I said, a lap to go, and they'll be taking class victory. But yes, Mikel Garcia, gap is 3/4 of a second between Garcia and Dehan. Similarly, almost identical pace, identical gaps in between Peacock and Val, as you can see on the timer on the left-hand side of the screen. If Sander can, to be fair, I don't know if Sander Vrailing, if he can stick with Pimbao, then he might have an opportunity. The gap is already 7/10 of a second before they get onto the Nordschleife. I really think that Pimbao has got the move, and he just needs to get the. He may have better tyres or something. Something just works at this moment in time for him, and he's got a really, really good amount of pace. So, not 100% sure on what's going on at this moment in time. Again, it all could still change, but I've just seen he's pulled another 10th out, has Pimbao. So, yeah, I think this needs to keep his head down, run the remainder of the race, and he will be golden. We got Ryan Walker had a bit of a moment here. This is, again, from the Nomad VLN car. Just brushes that. Well, it was actually quite a heavy hit, actually, to be fair, quite a fair amount of pace. But he seems to be all going on with no issues there. Look at again, the battles. You cannot argue, can you, that these battles here. I've just looked at the time tower as well. It's just ticked over, in fact. So this is obviously, if you need any more confirmation, that is it. But yeah, what can Matthias Dehan do? He needs to pull away. Otherwise, like I said, he can't do anything. There is nothing that he can do. Because Mikel Garcia needs to keep his foot absolutely pinned and buried into the footwell of his TCR car down the Dottinger Hoe, and then with how close he is, he'll be well on his way. I really, like I said, I just can't see. I can't see what else can happen really at that point, unless Matthias Dehan has he's very confident on the brakes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be down, isn't it, really, to this last bit of the Nordschleife. Through here, we're not really going to see any positions changing hands. Instead, it's going to be, as they come out of the carousel, it's that bit of the Nordschleife that's really going to determine who is going to take the race victory. Meanwhile, we're seeing Van Loosenord now making his way up through. Oh, my word. That was a very scary moment from Van Loosenord at the lead of the race, but Sander Vrailing, he had his own scary moment, didn't he? He's had a bit of a moment behind. That was Pimbao, but I think he stays in front of his teammate. And oh, they're all having a bit of a moment because Paul Klist just had another little incident as well. Oh my word, it's all kicking off. But that was really scary stuff from Martin van Loosenhood. We saw him going up towards Bravery Corner, dipping a wheel out onto the grass on turning. Massive moment of snap oversteer, but he held it brilliantly. I was amazed that he was able to keep it going. Wow, that was very intense indeed. And now look, we can see Mikel Garcia. He's right behind Matthias de Haan, isn't he? The Manatee Racing TCR car currently leading the full send racing. But it is, like we mentioned, this next bit of the Nordschleife, which is key. After the carousel, several corners, quick succession, not really anywhere to get massive amounts of slipstream to close the gaps down. If it's a good final part of this Nordschleife for Matthias de Haan, he's going to be taking the race victory. But if he doesn't get it right, then Mikel Garcia is going to be within the best chance of taking a race victory.
He is indeed, absolutely. Just have a look as well. Look at this is Ursine Herfjord, and again the gap's coming up 3 seconds. It's now 8/10. Herfjord has got some really, really good pace, and he's only on probably the first third of the Nordschleife. So he's probably actually getting into the second third again. Look how much confidence, look what confidence he is on the brakes. Obviously got the car underneath him, and he's really utilising it to his advantage in these closing stages. The gap is 0.6 of a second. There he goes, the battle box there. It's actually 0.5 of a second. So Herfjord can actually, he's catching Dupin up faster than I can keep up with saying how close he is. But again, you just see he's got so much more confidence, especially on throttle as well. He knows where the car is. He knows the car is underneath him. And he's really obviously utilising that to his advantage. I mean, we're going to have to see the drive, the real drive of the day from Anton Dupin if he wants to keep him behind. But again, you've got that main straight. Actually, thinking about it, is Herfjord is actually going to try and make a move here. We did see it in the last round. Are we going to see it here? Could this be the one and only move that we're going to see down the straight that is not straight?
I don't know. I don't think we're going to see him make the move just yet. I think he's going to be just trying to stay behind, maybe make it later on in the lap if he can get away with it.
Ooh,
Meanwhile, this is a side-by-side moment with John Roberts and Ryan Walker. Ryan Walker, I think, was the car in front initially. So this is John Roberts trying to make his way on through. And I think he just about has done so now as they make their way up through Bravery Corner. Now I thought we were going to be seeing them side-by-side, but up in front, Martin van Loosenhood is going to take the race victory here this evening at the Nordschleife for the second round of the championship. Again, going the way of Martin van Loosenhood for RHG Esports. Great performance there from the Dutchman there. A brilliant drive as well. We've also seen Seb Herbera. He's come home in third place in GT4 in the background. So the driver we saw, I believe, on pole position, coming home, unfortunately, in third place.
Yeah, I've allowed.
Oh,
that's a wall. That's a tyre barrier that was never ever going to be missed. Yeah, and straight back to the pits. Obviously, irreparable damage there. Not ideal. Both of them. Oh, hello. We've got some more battles going on. This is going to be it. What is going to be? Oh, the move is going to be made potentially between Matthias de Haan and Mikel Garcia. Oh my goodness, Mikel Garcia's got in front, but I mean, he couldn't have left any more. And this is going to be it. This is actually going to be the race list.
Whoa!
Oh, Matthias de Haan getting so sideways. It's not going to be enough though. Mikel Garcia just makes the move stick. What a move there! And Matthias de Haan comes home in second, but Mikel Garcia takes the TCL round win. Wow, that was close. Oh my goodness. I mean, fair play, you can't argue. But now we've got some more battle here because this is the other battle that we thought was going to happen. Preben Val and Ollie Peacock. I told you that Ollie made the move too soon, didn't he?
It's contact.
Preben Val's just about got it all crossed up. What on earth has happened here? It's going to be a drag race down to the line, but I don't think he's actually going to be able to do it. And it is indeed going to be. Do you know what? Preben Val's going to take P3 off of him. It's going to be a drag race to the finish. Who is actually going to be coming out on top? I think it is just going to be Preben Val.
Val just took it.
Oh,
Val
my goodness.
took it ever so closely. It was close margins at the front as well. The top two were separated by 0.02 of a second. And then third and fourth was separated by about 0.06 of a second or something ridiculous as well. It was ever so close, wasn't it? The margins for victory here this evening. But there's not been a close margin, at least, in both the GT3 class and GT4. This man, Isaac Barkley, he's got the whole track to himself. Matthew Sufi behind him is about 1 minute back It's been a great performance, hasn't it, from the Sapphire Simsport driver. As soon as we saw the incident with Seb Herbert early on, maybe just misjudging fuel, maybe not taking the qualifying set off of his car, it was seemingly Isaac Barkley's race from that point on. 0 mistakes from that man, the Brit driver. Great performance indeed as we start to see some of the other drivers coming across the line. It was Pimbau that did finish on the podium ahead of, that was Sander Vreeling and Pascal Tigelaar. Ross Yost makes his way across the line there in 6th position as well. Good drive from the Sim Racing Loft Volante racing car. Curtis Newkirk as well, the other Simpact racing car we've seen out on track. He's just got the long dot and just straight before he will be taking the checkered flag in 7th position.
Indeed, I tell you what, that was. I've never seen closer racing at Nordschleife. I've never, of all the racing that I've done around it, I've still never seen closer racing. Fair play indeed from the TCR guys. That was just so close. But yeah, I'm not saying I called it because at the end of the day, that could have gone absolutely either way, 600ths of a second. But yeah, I wondered if Ollie had made that move just a little. He'd made it a lap too early potentially. But yeah, that could have gone. I mean, could have completely gone either way. But yeah, just go show, great racing from these guys. I honestly thought Matthias de Haan was going to stack it as well. I really thought that was good. When you go up on 2 wheels, when a car goes up on 2 wheels, you almost have that sharp intake of breath because you're waiting for something to happen. But the car control, I think Matthias de Haan, to keep it in check and to not actually lose that much time, I mean, yeah. That just goes to show the car control that these guys have it's just incredible. It really is. But yeah, Isaac Barkley is just coming through now. He's still actually probably quite a ways left on the track to go. In fact, I wonder if we can actually get the track map. There he is. So he's actually just coming down. Not too much longer left to go. Just see him coming through, like I said. Just a couple more corners to go. Second carousel. And then he will be on his way. But he is going to be one of the only people out on track, as well as himself, Paul Kleist, and Matteo Sufi. And then we're going to have a chat with a couple of people. We've already got Martin van Loosenord in the commentary box. So when this is all done and dusted and when Isaac Barkley crosses the line with a couple of other people, we'll probably run down the order as well, actually, first. And then we'll be having a chat with our top drivers. Who is going to be? Because, yeah, you weren't actually able to attend the first round of interviews, were you? So, to be fair, we've got some good insights, as we normally do. We had some nice insights and some really good insights of what was actually... of all the different tactics and all the different teams and what they were doing. So it was quite interesting, actually.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping to see how Martin van Loosenord's race was. The difference in strategy in GT3 was really quite intriguing as well, of different drivers taking pit stops, taking tyres at different intervals, trying to make them tyres last right until the end of the race as well. We've just got Isaac Barkley, though, a couple more corners to go as he makes his way through Tiergarten. 2 more to go, and he will be able to take the race victory. And Isaac Barkley, he certainly does Nords, doesn't he? The rear of his car shining there with the Comic Sans. I think that was what helped him to victory. Great drive, though.
Absolutely. But yeah, as you say, do you do Nords? And yeah, Isaac Barkley's answer is absolutely... no questions asked, yes. So he does take the win. But yeah, Sebastian Herbert, not the round that he wanted. Still P3 though. Respectable drive from him. Paul Kleist is coming down the Dottingham for the last time, although his car's looking a little bit worse for wear. Actually, and I'll tell you why, this would be the reason. As he goes through into the barrier, that's a hefty shunt. That is a hefty shunt indeed. So that would be why he is a little bit slower down straight. Actually, in fact, what times is he doing? 240. So about 30 Ks off what we were seeing. We're about 25 Ks off what we were seeing from the top drivers.
Oh, the car doesn't want to go straight.
It doesn't,
look at that.
It doesn't. He's got a couple more corners left, and they will be running home free. And then Matteo, see if you're coming home in P2. I tell you what, Porsche sounds so good. I love a flat 6. Absolutely love a flat 6. Interesting, though, is the GT4 cars actually going too much slower than the GT3 cars in a properly straight line down the Dottingham hose. Interesting, actually. The lower downforce, which I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that the TCR, the GT4, sorry, they don't have the acceleration. But obviously when they go down through Tiergarten, the gravity really helps them get up to speed. So they all kind of bounce out with one another in the end. But Matthew Sufi takes home a very well done second place. He kept himself out of trouble. Didn't do anything too silly and bags himself a very good result indeed. And I think that is every single driver out on track coming across the line, apart from Ivo Lobscher, but that was the last lap. Little incident. They towed into the pits. Unfortunately, their race was ended right at the death.
Yes, it wasn't ideal, was it? It really very much was not ideal. But right, yes, we'll have a chat with a couple of people in a few moments' time. But I think let's first run through your finishing order here. So I will bring the results up. Now. First, we're going to run through the GT3s. There we go. R8G Esports.
That is qualifying results.
Sorry, that is qualifying. You are absolutely right. I do apologise. And as if by magic, there we are. So yes, we've got R8G Esports taking the race win. Simpact X Orange, Noises Orange taking it home in P2. Ferry Monster Esports in P3. Team iRace. I didn't realise that IRNL stands for iRacing Netherlands. There we go. Learn something new every day. So iRacing Netherlands White taking home P4 with iRacing Netherlands Orange, the sister team, in P5. SimRacingLoft.com Volante Racing 2 in P6, Simpact Racing Blue 7th, Positively Racing in P8, E-Team Brits 9th, Team Paul Joseph in P10, and then Year 1 Racing in P11. 14 laps down, unfortunately. Not ideal at all. Ed, do you want to run through the GT4 grid?
Absolutely, yes. And it was Sapphire Simsport taking the GT4 race victory. Isaac Barkley started and finished that race, took it all the way through for 2.4 hours of the VLN with a great race victory ahead of Matthew Sufi in the 64 racer car. Then it was Simracersworld Kraut. That is Sebastian Herber there in third place ahead of Regatta Racing. Team Sherman's GT4, Ministry of Silly Slides, and Team Paul Godden rounding out the field. I think then we have, of course, the close fight, wasn't it, in TCRs? And I'll tell you what, run us through a brilliant finish for that.
Well, there we go indeed. Yes, Full Sin Racing taking the race victory with Mikel Garcia at the helm of the finishing position. Minity Racing TCR in P2. 6 with 0.3 of a second was the gap. Literally nothing at all. That was obviously with Matthias Dehan. Prebin Val from Luminous Racing in P3 with T23 race coaching by FSR. Driven by Ollie Peacock in P4, only 0.07 of a second behind. So that was very, very close as well. Andy Jones in P... sorry, that's actually Andy Jones. Sorry, apologies. He was in GT4 class. So next person along is Boosted Team Mad as well. And that was driven by Miguel Freitas in the TCR. David Van Broek in Boosted Motorsport Line taking home P6. Flemish Simsport Green Hell 7th. Luminous Racing in P8. That one was that Luminous Racing car was driven by Ursine Herfjord. Man put it on pole but couldn't quite convert it in the race. Boosted Motorsport Green P9. Nomad VLN in P10. Quantum Racing Black in 11th. And Fast Cars Go Bang. Interesting team name there. Unfortunately, 14 laps down in P12. That was Luis Correa that's driving that car. That is it. That is your grid.
Unfortunate for Luis Correa there. His car certainly went bang and wasn't that fast because he wasn't really in contention for the race victory, unfortunately. However, we do have a driver in the interview waiting room, Dan, and you know what? Let's bring in Martin van Luzenoord for a chat. Our race winner, 2 on the bounce, Martin. And it seems that GT3 cars, at least from my recollection in Simracersworld, are a very good combination for you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I like it a lot, I have to say.
Yeah, definitely. And that was a great race from you, wasn't it? And just talk us through the race management, because we saw drivers in GT3 try different strategies all the way through, taking the tyres at a different phase. What was it like for you?
Well, I felt like the first stint and a half, the tires would last. So I went for a shorter second stop. to be able to sort of double stint the tires. And then, as I thought the temps would go higher in the end, I wanted to pick the new tires with more fuel. But in the end, the track only got colder, so I didn't know. I didn't calculate that.
Well, it was a very smart move actually to take your sort of, I guess, what you call a splash and dash, your sort of shorter stop towards the middle of the race to try and even out the load across the 2 tyre sets you took, which was a very smart move. But talk us well about how the race was from your perspective in terms of traffic management, because we did see a few times where you caught TCRs in difficult spots and there were a few sketchy moments.
Yeah, there were a few sketchy moments. I think I had everything under control, but I felt like an LMP1 driving through the field. So yeah, I mean the speed difference is huge compared to the TCRs, and I managed to go through without damage.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you managed to get through with that damage, but there was a little moment towards the end of the race, was it? I think you were coming up to Bravery Corner on the last lap. Talk us through that, because that was very scary stuff in the comms box.
Yeah, it was scary stuff indeed. I was trying to go for an 8:04, and that didn't go quite well. So I was pushing it really hard, trying to beat my PB, but that didn't work out. So I had 2 moments on that lap, and yeah, it was that was basically just finding the edge. That was the reason why.
That's what we love to hear, though, isn't it? The fact that you were leading by about, nearly 1.5 minutes, but it turns out you still were trying to fight right to the end to get your personal best. That would have been a real sight to see. But I'll hand over to my co-commentator, Dan, if you have any further questions, Dan.
To be fair, I just want to say, no, very well done, Martin. Really, really good stuff. 2 out of 2. Any difference in prep for next round, or is it pretty much same as? Is it just same as what you've been doing?
Thank you, first of all, and next time I think we'll be with Roman, so I'll have to teach him a little bit the Nordschleife, but that will be fine. We'll be fine, I guess. So I think there will be a little bit more prep in terms of coaching than the other rounds, but obviously I'll go into the race with enough practice.
Absolutely. You're talking about practicing coaching. I think you'll actually be able to have a bit of chance to maybe do a bit of coaching if you two will be taking part together in the Nurburgring 24 hours. Is that something that you and Roman would be working together for RHG?
Well, I don't think Roman will be driving the 24 of the Nordschleife, as he has a busy life with driving the NASCARs and stuff. The NASCARs, the Indy cars. But yeah, this series specifically is really good for practice for the 24, and I'm going to do the 24 of the Nurburgring for sure. So yeah.
Absolutely, that'd be great practice. See if you can message him. See if you can take his rig with him if he's jetting off across the USA. Maybe he might be able to hop on. It's a 24-hour race. He might be able to fit a stint in somewhere here or there. Who knows?
Oh, he should be able to do it with just a laptop and a mouse, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you can manage that just fine. You don't need to sit here and wheel or any fancy rig at all. You'll be fine. Mouse and keyboard, off you go. But thank you very much, Martin, for joining us in the comms box. But before we let you get off to celebrate your race victory, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to here on the broadcast?
Yeah, thanks to you guys for covering this series, and thanks to my team for being there for me. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Martin. Congratulations on your race victory. 2 from 2. We'll be seeing if you can make it 3 from 3 in about 3 or 4 weeks' time.
See you next time, guys.
So, Dan, that was Martin van Luzenoord. Great drive from him, wasn't it? Great drive from everyone, though, to be fair. It was a great, entertaining evening's racing, and tell you what, I'm really looking forward to the next round. It's a shame, isn't it, that we've got such a big break between here and the next round, because I believe the next round is actually on the 1st of May. So I've got nearly an entire month before we're in the comms box together talking through the next round of the Simracersworld VLN series.
Absolutely, yeah. I can't wait to get it gone and to get it underway, because it's brilliant. This has been a really good prep later for everyone for the Nordschleife. Again, we just saw on the screen. Look at how between Dehan and Garcia. Really, really great close racing there. Yeah, I'm just excited. It's been good prep for everyone for the Nurburgring 24, and I'm sure people are going to be coming back now with even more pace, because they will just have so much more prep, and they'll have so much more time in the car as well. So yeah, a month is a big delay, but I think it's going to be worth the wait. I think it's going to be absolutely worth the wait. But unfortunately, Ed, it is time to wrap up. As much as I'd love to be able to and just run the next race now, I think another 2.5 hours would. I think that would be quite tiring, actually, with the amount of action that we have seen.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you mentioned, it's been a brilliant race this evening. So close, isn't it? This TCR fight was brilliant. It was just not to be for Matthias Dehaene, who led so much of the race. Like we mentioned earlier, you can lead 80 or 99% of the race, but it doesn't matter. As soon as you need to be the driver to take the checkered flag first, and well, Mikel Garcia, he put himself in the best position to do that, didn't he? Great racing on display, and I'll let you round out. But before I do, I've had my teammate who's been watching the stream along. He's messaged me saying, he messaged me early trying to tell me to squeeze the word penguin in somewhere, but there we go. I fit it in there.
Interesting stuff. Well, there we go. There we go. But yes, like I said, absolutely, we do have to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for watching as well. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the stream. We also got 10 likes as well, so we hit the double digits. So it's obviously fantastic as well. Thank you, everyone, for liking and getting involved. It's always a pleasure to catch up with everyone and to get involved and to see everyone getting involved with the stream. But until next time, like I said, all the way having to wait until May. I'm sure it's going to be very much worth the wait, though. So that was the Simracersworld VLN 2.4 hour series round 2. What is round 3 going to bring? We will find out in a few weeks' time. But until then, everyone, make sure, as always, you take care and stay safe.